Hello and welcome back to Here's the News. You saw our pilot episode a week or so ago, and we are officially here for a real show, a weekly show. And here is our second episode of Here's the News. We're talking about the Emmys, a lot to talk about with the Emmys, some big winners, a lot of divisive speeches. We're also going to talk about DC news. We got Batman stuff, we got Superman stuff. The news does not stop, it only heats up. If you want to hear us talk about all that stuff and more, here's the episode for it. Michael did a live breaking down the Emmys deeply category by category on Awards Roundtable. But if you want to hear us just talk about the news around the Emmys, the reactions to the Emmys, the politics of the Emmys, and all of the movie news and TV news in the industry, this is the show for you. And I've got my co-host here with me once again, Ari. How are you feeling on this week in movie news? Did you like the Emmys? I know you watched them this week, so how are you feeling?
Yeah, a lot have come out. A few big stories, but a lot of those, smaller stories. It's news, but it's not. Like this started filming this here. There's one in particular that I'm really excited involving a director we all know and love that was turned down by a major video game studio. That we'll definitely touch on that. The Emmys were, the Emmys a very small year. I mean. Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that. We'll talk about political openness at the Emmys and how that was received, and certain things were bleeped out on the air. But yeah, it was a good news week. Of course, we got some Superman news. We got some big Superman news. Just so happened to drop like a day after we record our first episode. Talk about timing. It's just how it is. But yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm excited to talk about some of this stuff.
Yeah, it'll be fun to talk about the Superman news. You barely missed it, but we'll talk about the breaking news, the news of last night, which was the Emmys. You mentioned them. You had watched the Emmys. I didn't watch them this year. I just didn't really follow a lot of the shows that were nominated, so I didn't feel the need to watch them. But I did follow them on social media, and social media talked about them quite a bit. You can actually see that in the ratings as well. The Emmys had the highest ratings they've had in 4 years since 2021. It's pretty much exactly what they got in 2021, which is the year right after COVID. So the COVID year was a real bad year for awards viewership, and then they had a big year right after that, and we're essentially right back where they were in terms of viewership, which is a good thing for the Emmys for sure. That's a good sign. There's a lot of talk about the Emmys last night, and it was not all good talk. I felt like there was a lot of big debates about the guy's hosting abilities. What do you think about him as a host? Do you think he was good? Was he entertaining? Was he funny?
I I actually was not able to watch the Emmys last night, but I was on social media, and I've heard that he was not a good. People like him as a comedian, but it sounds like he's just not host. Sometimes they get someone who's really funny. You're like, oh, I'm excited to see how he does. He'll do great. No, and Conan is someone who you wouldn't necessarily think of for that, but he ended up nailing it and being great. So sometimes it's the opposite of what you think. But yeah, it sounds like this guy was just not the right fit to host. And in terms of the wins, there was the expected stuff, but also it's nice to see that the Bear has maybe been replaced. I mean, we'll see next year, but it sounds like the Pit might be taking the Bear's place for the next couple of years. And this is what the Emmys like to do. They like to pick a favorite. They like to award it for 3 or 4 years, and then they throw it away. That's how Emmys work. So maybe the Pit is. We saw Adolescence is a limited series for now. They really love that this year. Apparently, this was the first year since, I believe, might be getting the year wrong. I believe 1988. That was the last year where the 2 top prizes were awarded to shows that were in the first seasons. And
Yeah, it's a big news for this year. Is that those are new shows, and it feels like a new blood is coming into the TV world. All this kind of old age of the golden age of Hollywood is kind of on the way out. Like this new golden age of TV with like Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, that stuff is gone, and people were kind of sitting around saying, okay, what are the next great TV shows going to be? And it seems like now we're seeing it, right? The Pit seems to be this huge, universally beloved drama that everyone across the political spectrum seems to be enjoying, and I really love the Pit. That to me is like the big winner of last night, because the drama category is so competitive, and the Pit was such a takeover of the conversation, right? The Emmys love to go for the conversation piece, and I feel like the pit was talked about every week, just how great this show is. You got to be watching the pit. You got to be watching the pit, and that really, really paid off. And
Well, real quick, what do you think the future? This is an award show, but what do you think the future of Severance at the Emmys is?
I think it'll be very, very interesting because Severance season 3 needs to be a universal hit, right? Because season 2 was liked, but I don't think it was like beloved overall. There's fans of it who think it's amazing, and it has moments of it that I think are amazing. But as a whole, for me, and I think for a lot of the audience, it was not quite to the consistent level of season 1. And I think they've got to find their footing. And yeah, Severance feels like something of that old era. It feels like something out of like the Breaking Bad era where it almost feels outdated in a way where it's like the mystery box kind of J.J. Abrams
Yeah,
kind of storytelling that I just don't necessarily think works that well today.
it's the closest we have to another Lost, and it feels like people love it, but I don't know if like the awards bodies love it maybe as much as the average person
Yeah, and
does.
I think it's notable that the winners today were pretty traditional shows, like a medical drama and like a Hollywood comedy, right? Like it's stuff that we've kind of seen these things before. Like there's elements of 24 in there, and there's elements of like BoJack Horseman, and like there's other shows that have been like this, but nothing on this level of like a huge hit in terms of awards and viewership, not in a long time. So
Yeah, and the Penguin did. It sounded like some people thought the Penguin was like in a sweep or something. I don't know why, but it did. Kristen Milioti win, and then at the the Emmys before the Emmys, Mick Giacchino won, and Matt Reeves had some comments. He was asked what I know you don't want to pick favorites, but what do you think? Who's underappreciated? Who's the person you want to pay attention to? And he said Mick Giacchino. He just said on a personal level, he really wants to pay attention to Mick Giacchino. And I think that's interesting and shows that Michael Giacchino and him, they're buds. They will be, if say Matt Reeves does one more Batman movie and leaves, like Michael Giacchino is going to follow him where he goes. And I honestly think that's I mean, DC will be fine, but that would be a loss to DC if they lost Michael Giacchino. He's made some of the best comic book scores. If you listen to John Murphy's score for Superman, it really does feel like there is some Giacchino influence. But yeah, I thought that was notable. And also, I guess, do we want to comment on the Batman comments now, or
no, we'll save that for later. That's a whole topic to itself, but I want to talk about the Emmys as
yeah?
a whole.
Um,
We want to mention adolescents. You mentioned them a bit, but I want to say they like totally swept every category they were nominated for. They won, and that
yeah,
was a great win for them and a great win for Netflix.
yeah, that was unbelievable. Netflix is just they are on a roll, man. They say what you will about their theatrical releases, like in terms of awards, they're doing really well, and they're getting better with the Oscars too.
Yeah, they have a lot of contenders on the Oscar side this year that are in the running for Best Picture nominations, if not winning. So they're
And
definitely climbing their way up the ladder of these award
and
shows.
last year they were gonna win. They were
They
they were
were.
shooting gonna win. And then Hacks, Hacks is that's another show they're in love with, and Hannah Einbinder finally won and decided to say F ICE and Free Palestine. YouTube, please don't censor us like you censored her. Yeah, apparently on the broadcast they bleep that out, the F ICE, and then I believe the Palestine. I'm not sure, but then um, they did the same for someone else too,
It
and
was a very politically charged
yeah,
Emmys overall, and I want to talk about that. That's our headlining story of today: is just how politically charged the Emmys are and how politically charged this award season might end up getting. You mentioned the speech from Hannah. She literally said "fuck ICE and free Palestine." She did not mince her words. Javier Bardem on the red carpet also said "free Palestine." He talked about genocide directly. He did not mince his words either, and it feels like people are not shying away from saying what they feel in regards to this specific issue. And in the way that award season is just right now beginning, we're about to see people do press tours and we're about to see multiple months of interviews. It's going to be very interesting to see who shies away from this issue and who embraces it head on, right? Because it seems like a lot of people who are on the Palestinian side of this are not afraid to say, yeah, I'm on that side. What are you going to do about it? Whereas other sides seems to be a little more afraid to speak their minds.
What happens if you have a show that has Hannah Einbinder in it, but then it has someone like Seinfeld? Like what happens then when both sides are outwardly? How does that affect? You know, I'm just curious about that. I'm also curious about will Marvel be able to keep Kelsey Grammer's mouth shut on this Doomsday tour?
Yeah, and not just Kelsey Grammer. That is a huge cast full of people with very strong opinions, and
Yeah,
it's gonna be interesting to see how they can keep all that connected, especially in something like Doomsday, where you can't even really talk that much about the movie. You're just talking about like other stuff in these
yeah.
interviews. So like, uh, and there's obviously there was the assassination, which has only made the division of politics more prominent in our conversations, and something that's going to be talked about through the rest of the year as this investigation is going on, as this trial and all these inevitable events start to unfold over the course of these next few months. It's going to be, I do not envy the publicists who have to, manage all of these celebrities who have really strong opinions are going to be on talk shows, and they're going to want to talk about their really strong opinions. And your publicist is going to be like, please don't do that.
I do
And
want
it's going
to
to be interesting.
I do want to mention with the Stephen Colbert what he said. He said he ended his thing with "God bless America" and everything, and I feel like is he trying to like is he trying to do the centrist, the neoliberal, like God bless America? It's so sad. What happened? That was interesting to me because he's been canceled by the right, and now he's trying to, I guess, play play the liberal thing. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, Colbert's always been kind of a middle of the road guy. He's not afraid to reach across the aisle and try and connect like that. And his full quote was, "You, in a sense, like you are always the most afraid to lose something when you think it's about to be lost." And he came to realize he loves America because he saw that it was on the brink of going away. That is the full quote. Everyone says, "Oh, Colbert says I love America," but the full quote is, you never realize how much you love something until you think it's going to be taken away from you. And he felt like America was going to be taken away from him in the last few days. And you can imagine why. Things have been very rough in this country. And I think everybody on every side of these issues is very heated right now. And I just don't know how to keep that out of the awards conversation. When you look at something last year like Amelia Perez and how the hot button issues of politics around that movie were something that elevated it at first to like, oh, you've got to see this because of the political issues around it, and then immediately it was killed because of the political issues around it also. It's going to be, I cannot imagine what some of these quotes are going to be like on this tour. But yeah, how are you feeling about the awards season? How political can they really get here? Are we going to start seeing like some really dirty politics in terms of like leaking people's political takes and trying to dig up, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's
Oh
politics to try and
boy!
get him
Oh boy!
out of the
Oh
best actor
no!
race?
Yeah, if I were The Rock right now, I would be deleting tweets left and right because he definitely has said some things that lean conservative. Um, I mean, he has there are stuff about him being a Republican. I'm not sure if he is, but that's definitely something that's out there. And he does seem like someone who wants to reach on both sides and bring everyone together. And yeah, where we are now, I don't know about I don't know about that being a reality. So I mean, his daughter was just attacked online for some controversial comments about Charlie Kirk and about how if you want nice things to be said after you're gone, say nice things where you're alive. So I think that's interesting that she's being attacked for that, and he's been criticized for being Republican. But I'm curious about, I just saw Scarlett Johansson's directorial debut, Eleanor the Great, and I wonder if something like that is hurt because it's a Jewish movie and it's about the Holocaust, and I wonder if people don't want to award that because of what's going on in the Middle East. I'm curious how something like that is affected.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how that particular issue plays out because we're of course seeing an increasingly strong, large amount of actors who are signing this petition saying we're not going to work for organizations that are tied to Israeli money, and financing from Israel, and that list has only gotten longer and
Yeah,
longer.
it's only gotten longer.
And meanwhile, Paramount, a studio that's been rising significantly in the last couple of months, more and more projects, more and more money coming into Paramount, they straight up said, like, we don't support this boycott. We don't support this petition. We think it's racist, essentially. They said it was
Yeah,
anti-Semitic.
yeah. They were basically saying it's about their nationality and not about their actions. It's only about their nationality. And so Paramount is certainly taking a stance. I think that Paramount is, obviously leaning more conservative. We'll see how that pans out. If I were Kelsey Grammer right now, I would be going to the head of Paramount and be like, "I love Trump. You love Trump. Let's be friends. Let's bring Frazier back." Um, yeah, not to. I unfortunately had to bring that up, but yeah, I don't know what happens this award season. Everyone's so charged. Like, are the conservatives just going to be like, fuck it? Let's just say everything we're thinking. And are the hidden conservatives going to come out?
Yeah, we've seen a lot of, especially around the Charlie Kirk situation, where it's like if you say I feel bad for his family, suddenly it's like, oh well, you support him, and that's not what I said. But and it's also like, oh, if I don't mourn Charlie Kirk and feel bad for the person that I didn't really like, having something terrible happen to him, all of a sudden you support violence, and it feels like you can't even speak on either side of that particular issue without someone trying to like attack you for it. And I don't know how they talk around that on this campaign, especially when everyone's going to be talking about it. And you mentioned that the response in Paramount, they said that it's targeting individuals, whereas the workers of Palestine have responded and they've said that it's not about individuals, it's about targeting institutions. There's not any individual name that they're boycotting against. It's not like, oh, you supported this, you're from this place, we boycott you. It's all about the institutions and where their money goes, where their allegiances seem to lie. And look, that's capitalism. People who provide their labor are allowed to not provide it to people for any reason they don't want to, right? And Paramount can say, oh, we don't support this, we don't want this, but like in the end, right now at least, a lot of the power lies with the creatives. And I think that's why a lot of studios are pushing for AI, pushing for less and less and less power on the creative side, because eventually it won't matter. You can say, oh, I don't support this country, I don't support your politics, and Paramount can say, we don't care, we own your AI likeness anyway, and we'll just boost out another TV show with a bunch of AI animation, and it doesn't matter if we have actors or not.
It took me a second to realize that the Bear straight up won nothing, like
Zero
wins.
wins. That's truly a killing of a series right there.
Is this for the new season or for season 3?
That I don't know. I think it is a new season, but I wouldn't be 100% sure.
Yeah, the Emmys, their qualifications, for which season has always confused me. So I'm not sure. Yeah, that charity bit, I read about that. That's bizarre. It's like a funny joke, but like to actually go through with that, to like play a game with money going toward good cause, that feels insensitive to me and just weird.
And I also hate the narrative that, oh, the reason award shows go so long is because the winners talk for like a minute and a half or like 60 seconds. It's like, if all of the winners talked for like 10 minutes straight, it still wouldn't be that long of a show. Like the reason these shows go so long is because you have a bunch of really terrible bits that are not funny. You have a bunch of endless commercials, a bunch of advertisements, a ton of wasted time. I think you should let these speeches go on like as long as they possibly want to go on. Like maybe not 10 minutes, but like give them as long as you can get. Why are you blaming the speakers for the fact that you're producing a show that can't run on time? Like the speakers are what we're here for. It's their night.
You remember when a few years ago the Oscars cut all those categories, shortened the speeches, and then it was their longest show in years?
Yeah, if you want your show to be shorter, just do less dumb bits. Cut down the presenter bits by like half. Not even all of them, just like shorten some of them, and you would cut off a lot of this runtime.
Just like be good. I mean, Jesus Christ. I know it's notable that Noah Wyle never won for ER. Like,
that is interesting.
This is his first Emmy win. So he's a guy who's been working for so long, working so hard, and he's finally getting his due. And it's so great to see an actual, legitimately incredible, like one of the best written shows I've seen in a while. And then I guess, is there anything else in terms of the Emmys?
I think we've basically covered everything we've got to cover. It was an interesting show. I'm glad that the ratings went up. I hope next year they can get a better host, because to be honest, the host is probably the biggest reason I didn't watch. If they had a host that I was familiar with, or at least someone that like could sell me in an ad, I might check the guy out. But I saw his name. I said, I don't know who this guy is. I watched a couple clips of him on YouTube, and I said, I don't think this guy is very funny, so I'm probably not going to watch the Emmys this year. But if they would have had Conan or something like that, I might have tuned in.
if they wanna, if they wanna appease the left crowd next year, they should have Rami Youssef host. He's not Palestinian, but like he's the most famous Middle Eastern comedian right now. Um, maybe even bring up Mikhail Maui, who's his co-star from the show about himself, Rami, who is Palestinian, and have her speak. Like they could lean into that, but
We got to
that
get Nathan Field to the host. That's my prediction, my dream. He would be a great host.
um but yeah, I think that would be a good idea. And Rami Youssef, remember in the studio, he like introduced an award at the Golden Globes.
It could be a crossover.
I don't know if the real world is as base as the world in the studio though.
Nobody thanked Sal Saperstein.
Jesus
What are we
Christ.
doing?
Jesus Christ, that's terrible.
They won like 10 Emmys and no one could thank Sal Saperstein.
So I guess we can
Yeah, let's talk about some red carpet Emmys news. Move outside of the ceremony, right outside of those golden gates. Matt Reeves is out there talking about the Batman Part 2. Finally opening up his mouth about the Batman Part 2. He says the script is done. They're going to enter production sometime in the spring of next year. He also mentioned, interestingly, that I don't know how to actually say her name.
Kristen, I think it's Kristen Milioti.
Christina Milioti. She just won off the Penguin, and according to Matt Reeves, she is not going to be in the Batman Part 2. But he did say, "We'll see. She's a great actress. I'd love to work with her." It made it seem like to me that she's not in the script right now, but he's open to maybe rewriting it to have her have a couple of scenes.
To me, that's bizarre because the Penguin like literally sets her up to be in either the Batman Part 2 or Catwoman to be in season 2 of the Penguin. And to me, it makes more sense to incorporate her in that large Batman story and have them team up or whatever there. So it's weird. Is there not coordinate because he's a producer on the show? So my question is, if she's not in it, then what exactly happened there? Maybe she is planned to show up in season 2. Maybe she is, but yeah, I'd like to know what's going on there. That to me was a little strange. He could just be lying, to surprise people, because he did say in that same interview that he loves the mystery. He wants people to be surprised. He mentioned that like when Rob gets the script, it goes in like a bat thing, like a bat folder, and he needs a special code to unlock it. Like nobody's getting the script. Like this script is not leaking online. It's so tight, and I respect that. I really like that he wants to keep it because I don't want the leaks, I don't want the leaks. And if this could possibly be his last Batman movie, I want to be surprised. So I think this is all really, really exciting. And he said Rob also has read the script and he really likes it. And he said they're doing something with Bruce and Batman, an angle that we haven't seen before in a movie. So I'm excited to see that. I hope it's about the duality. Like Batman Returns tries to go into that, but it doesn't really delve deep. So I'd love it if they really delve deep into that in this movie.
Yeah, I'm really excited because you mentioned that he has all these secrets, all this like Mission Impossible style locking of the script, and that's exciting to me because the first movie I do really like it a lot, but I wouldn't say it was full of like surprises or like necessarily like huge reveals or twists or anything like that. It was just like a pretty solid Batman movie, so it makes me wonder like how big is this script really gonna go? How crazy is he really gonna go? He talks about like surprise characters. Maybe she shows up, maybe she doesn't. Like I didn't watch a Batman being like, oh, maybe Superman's going to show up in here. Like that was never in my mind at all. But I'm going into this sequel saying like,
yeah,
maybe Clayface will be in this. Maybe Superman will be in this. Like not a high possibility, but like when he has all of this security around it, it makes me feel like maybe there is actually something really in there to hide.
And it is notable that the original rumor with Clayface is that Clayface would be the villain for this movie, and then they announced that that Mike Flanagan is doing a Clayface movie and Matt Reeves is producing, and so it's like it just makes you think. It just makes you think.
Yeah, what is DC cooking? And they're clearly cooking something, and I'm glad that they're so confident in this script. And I'm really interested to talk about your feelings on this delay, because we've been wondering forever, like, what's going on with the Batman Part 2? Is this thing dead? Is it James Gunn? Is it Matt Reeves holding it up? Is it just like the transitional time of Warner Brothers holding it up? And it seems like to me it's kind of a little bit of everything, but I want to read the quote here. Matt Reeves said that it's been a journey that is taking longer than I would have wanted for a lot of reasons, a lot of personal reasons. but the most important reason is getting the best script we could possibly write. And that's an interesting line because he does mention there was some personal reasons that held him back, but both him and James Gunn are emphasizing this line that they had to wait because they wanted to get the script as good as they could possibly get. James Gunn said that for a while, but he, even in the last couple of days, was asked why did this take so long, and he said, look, Matt was having a hard time perfecting the script. He had to take some time away from it and just kind of like come back to it. And I think whatever it had to take, I'm glad they made this happen. I'm glad Matt was just able to get over whatever was troubling him and to get this project moving, and I can't wait to see it come together.
Yeah, I don't know if I mean to me, if you're taking extra long, like if there is DCU stuff, to me, I feel like that would make it, that would add on and make it feel a little longer. I mean, who knows? We'll find out when we find out, but it's just a huge shame that he even had to say this, personal reasons. Like, nobody ever should have leaked personal information. It's horrible in a place that journalism should never reach. That's a line you should never reach.
Yeah, and I think I understand the frustration from the audience perspective of you're like, I'm waiting for this movie and you're giving me no answers, right? And James Gunn likes to give like really vague non-answers to every question and gets asked all the time. And if you're a fan, you can get frustrated and be like, can you just tell me what's happening with the movie? And I respect this line of him just saying, look, there were some personal issues, and I hope this is the end of it. Like, let's not dig into, what were the issues? Like, the reasons are beyond us. This movie has taken a while to get going, but look, it's happening now. So let's just kind of move on from the personal side of it, and let's try maybe focus on like the script side of it, the creative issue side of it. But when he says personal reasons, that to me makes me think that maybe there's not a lot of DC connection. Maybe it wasn't like a creative difference type of thing. Maybe it was literally just Matt Reeves was having kind of a crisis and a lot of anxiety around making this movie and had to step away for a little while. And James Gunn respected him enough as an artist to say, look, take your time. We're not going to give this to somebody else. We're not going to, cancel this. Take your time. But, eventually you got to get this movie made for us. But in the end, that's all theorizing. I'm just happy that they're back together and that it seems to me like whatever the personal reasons were, they've fixed, right? Like he made the movie and it's happening, right? So he's where he has to be now.
And then James, and we can move on to. Oh, okay. You already mentioned that. We can move on to it's coming out October 1st. One thing, okay, before we jump into the Man of Tomorrow, I just think it's interesting that the Batman Part 2 and Superman Man of Tomorrow are essentially going to be filming at the same time.
And releasing not that long away from each other either.
I'm not saying that means anything, but if there was a DCU introduction, like what better way than, well, let's filming at the same time. Let's fly on over and shoot the cameo or whatever. Like that, I don't know. We don't know what's happening, but I do think that's a sign of like, we'll see.
Yeah, I think in the end, me and you fall on opposite ends of like where we think this murder is gonna fall down on, but we'll see. Like you said, in the next few months, we'll find out for sure. And I'm curious how it turns out. James Gunn is laying on the gas, saying this is not my Batman. This is not my Batman. But James Gunn also, like I said, he talks half answers or like double, triple speak. Where he says it's true, but it's not like totally true. What he's
I'm not fully convinced it's happening, but there's these things that just, it's fishy,
Speaking of these things, you want to talk about what would have been our headliner if James Gunn would have just gone a day earlier. Man, what are you doing? Doesn't he watch the show? He shouldn't watch the first episode, You should have watched it. We could have talked about how James Gunn reveals Man of Tomorrow, essentially Superman non-sequel follow-up to Peacemaker season 2, releasing July 9th, 2027, less than 2 years after Superman. James Gunn's already done writing the draft. He's now in the rewrite stage. I mentioned here that since 2021, James Gunn has written 4 movies, 23 episodes of television, and 1 Christmas special. He is still set to write a second season of Creature Commandos, the first season of Waller, and presumably at some point will work on another season of Peacemaker. James Gunn is burning at both ends here. He talked about online today, actually, how someone asked him about writer's block, and he said, "Oh, I don't really have writer's block. Writing is a job. I just sit down every single day, 7 days a week, and I write. And sometimes it's terrible. Most of the time, it's terrible, But you go and you grind out for that one little gem." And James Gunn, yeah, he's a writer who works, like he's a working writer, and I really respect that about James Gunn. Is he's not someone who writes like one or two movies and then kind of like sits around for a while. Like he says, "Look, this is my job. I'm a writer. I write, and I write all the time." I hope he doesn't burn himself out, though. It's a lot of writing.
Yeah, I don't understand how this, like, he has no personal life. I don't understand, like, what happens with this guy. Like,
yeah, all this writing, and he still has to run a studio.
I don't understand. We will begin. This will hit its release date. Like this is just crazy. And we can. My question is, like, when does he write Peacemaker? Like, is he writing it now? Like, if there is another season, like,
and you wonder will the structure be somewhat similar? Will Peacemaker follow up Man of Tomorrow, and we'll get it, end of the summer 2027?
This is just crazy. And I guess we can talk about the fact that he said, this is a story about Superman and Lex kind of working together up a larger threat. So, like, is this just, is it Brainiac? Because that's, what you jump to. And there's definitely been signs and hints that it is Brainiac.
Yeah, I think that's the big question: is if they're teaming up, who are they teaming up against? And Brainiac feels like the best answer, but James Gunn loves to swerve when the answer seems obvious. And the way that everything is starting to point towards Brainiac almost makes me want to think it's not going to be that, or like it's going to be Brainiac, but in some other way we're not expecting it to be, or something along those lines. But he's hinted so heavily that Peacemaker season 2 is essentially the prequel to Man of Tomorrow. So I have to imagine we'll get a lot of answers of what this movie is going to be about in the next couple of weeks. So I'm really curious how that pans out. I'm excited for it. Superman and Lex teaming up. It's one of my favorite tropes where, like, the people who are diehard arch enemies have to, for one mission, kind of work together, and then in that process they start, against their better judgment, bonding a little bit and like getting to know the other person and like seeing some common ground, even if it annoys them. It's a very fun trope. And like we said, we're in such divided times where everybody is on their sides very, very firmly and very, very viciously. And this could be a fun metaphor of like seeing two opposing sides come together against, like, hey, at least we're not as bad as this guy, at least we're not Brainiac, we're better than Brainiac. So I think that could be a fun metaphor for us and a good, especially in 2027.
You're not going to like Lex, but you're going to understand what you're going to see where that hatred comes from, why he has that hatred. And I'm excited to see that. They do that in the Superman and Lois show, and they do that very well. So I'm really excited to see that. I think we're probably going to see the Thing team up in this one, and then the third one, like, Lex is full on the Lex Luthor from the comics, like the truly terrifying, truly evil, pure evil Lex Luthor.
Yeah, I can see that being the arc here. Like, they're working together, and then Lex ultimately has like this ultimatum at the end of the movie where it's like, oh, whose side are you on, Lex? Are you on your own side, or are you going to help your friend? And Lex is going to make the selfish choice, help himself, get himself power, and then leave Superman, defenseless.
I think the other possibility that would actually fit with what the first movie did, if it's not Brainiac, is Zod. And then she would show Lex that he still hates Superman, but he understands this guy is not like out to get us. Like, he just straight up defeated, violently beat up this guy who is his own kind.
Yeah, and I think that could also be a good example of the actual evil Kryptonian alien that Lex is so afraid of coming in. But I also just don't want to see Zod again for a little while. Like, I'm good taking a break from Zod, and I also don't really want to see the evil alien invader thing right now. Maybe we should just like avoid doing that for a second. We can do other stories.
Yeah,
I'm curious if this will be a big kind of like Winter Soldier or like Civil War level event. Like MCU once in a while, or at least for a bit, had like these middle of the road crossovers. They weren't quite Avengers level events, but it was like you're going to see a lot of the characters getting themselves in the right place for what will be the Avengers level event. So I'm wondering if Man of Tomorrow is sort of the Civil War of this storyline is going to be getting a lot of the characters in a place where we're going to see them be in Justice League sooner than later, and I'm really excited to see the DCU have like an actual kind of big event where characters are coming together, even if it's only for a couple of scenes, to like make this feel like a big universe where everything is happening all at the same time.
I think that we will see whoever the villain is by the end of the season of Peacemaker. Like,
Absolutely, I think so.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'm sure. Yeah. What is so the Man of Tomorrow comic involves? You said crossover with Hal Jordan, and it involves Lex Luthor. Do they team up in the comic?
Well, no, they don't team up necessarily, but it is interesting because Lex Luthor had been out of the comics for a little while, and like he comes back in the original Man of Tomorrow comic, and it's also one of those things where like it ran for a little while and then it got canceled early because it just got caught up in like DC red tape drama. So that feels like something that James Gunn would pull from and be like, oh, this kind of like fan favorite series that didn't really make it all that far, but it's Jeff Johns wrote it. He's obviously has a lot of power at DC. They love Jeff Johns, and I think that could be something to draw from. But there's also the much more popular Superman, Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, which is like one of the most beloved Superman stories. It's told from the perspective of Lois Lane after Superman is already gone, kind of talking backwards about his life and some of the best and worst parts of his life and his enemies and those kind of things. And it serves as like an ending to the Silver Age, pre-crisis kind of ending to Superman. It's interesting. This is coming up while we're in this post-crisis transition from an old DC to a new DC. They're going back to one of the ultimate stories that came from that transition, which was Whatever Happened to the Man Tomorrow, which also involves Brainiac and Lex.
And I think that when James says that it's much Lex's movie, Superman, I think he means that, and I think it's not going to be like Lex is supporting. Like Lex is also the lead. Like you see his perspective, like you see Superman's perspective.
Yeah, what's interesting about the connection to Whatever Happened is like that story is someone else's perspective on Superman, and I think that was an interesting connection with the fact that this is not James Gunn's repeated over and over again. This is not a Superman sequel. This is not Superman 2. And I found that was interesting. Like, is this going to be what Superman looks like to Lex? Like, is Lex going to be our main character? Are we going to see like why does Lex actually hate this guy so much? Are we going to like at least in the first act like start to see the world from Lex's POV and like all this annoying perfect Boy Scout showing up and ruining everything I'm trying to do?
Yeah.
And I think it'll be fun to see that.
I think he definitely is a main character. I could also see them doing the thing where he's the main character at the beginning and Superman is supporting, and then halfway through is when they're both full on the leads.
Yeah, because that could be how Gunn backs up his thing of this is not Superman 2. This is a Lex Luthor movie with Superman in it also, right? That could be his little back away from, oh, this is not a Superman sequel. It's a Lex Luthor spinoff that follows the villain of Peacemaker Season 2, you guys.
And if Peacemaker Season 2 does set up the villain, then that would make it make sense how Peacemaker would be in it.
Yeah, I think that would be too. Peacemaker only had a cameo in Superman. I wonder if he'll have a larger role.
I think he will.
Tomorrow.
I think he will. And I guess we can touch on, James Gunn revealed some interesting comments. He revealed that Dave Bautista was originally his first choice for Peacemaker, but he didn't do it because he wanted more money, and so he did Army of the Dead, which is ironically Zack Snyder. Yeah. But I'm a bit confused why you would, reveal that information publicly, James. Normally in Hollywood,
weird thing to say about your friend.
There are certain things you keep private, especially if it's your friend. I don't like. I think it's interesting. I mean, Dave Bautista, it probably would have worked. It would have been different. It probably would have worked. I'm glad it was John Cena because he needed that boost. This is the role that makes people take him seriously. And
it's unfortunate also because Batista's career is not like in a super great place at the moment either. Like he could have really used this boost too.
Yeah.
I think he would have had his career is not really going in upward momentum compared to his contemporaries. Like The Rock and John Cena seem to be going upward, whereas Batista seems to be going downward, unfortunately. And I think this role could have helped him.
Yeah, and recently people have talked about Batista like he's the one who's going upward. Like, look, he's in the more serious roles. He's the real actor, but
it was true for a while, but that doesn't seem to be the case anymore.
Yeah, very unfortunate. I hope he can give him something in DC moving
Yeah,
forward.
when he says that out of pocket comment, it almost makes me feel like he already has a role for him in DC. Like I don't know if he would say this just, or maybe they just don't talk that much or something. Like I don't know. It's a weird thing to say. I don't know. He's only a person. James Gunn can say something wrong once in a while, but it just felt like a weird thing to say.
They definitely talk all the time. Like Batista literally put his career on the line, like saying, fuck Trump and fuck Disney for firing James Gunn. They're scumbags. I'll never work for them again unless it's James. Like, there's no way they don't talk all the time.
Yeah, I wonder if he said this with Batista's blessing. Like, or and Batista call him afterward and be like, "What the hell, man? I just saw your interview and you're throwing me under the bus for the money."
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say about DC right now?
One thing I want to mention, I watched Superman again last week, and I guess Michael Rooker, I don't know, it's weird, he's credited for the movie, but I guess he is there, you just don't hear him? I don't know.
I don't think that works.
It's really bizarre. And then Jennifer Holland is credited, but it's weird because her lines were deleted. So why is she still credited? I don't understand. Does James just get to break the rules of film?
If it's your wife, you can just credit her.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, I think that's it for. I think that's it.
Yeah,
for,
we've dug in deep on DC. I want to talk about Wuthering Heights. I'm not sure you have as much to talk about as I do, but Wuthering Heights dropped its poster and its trailer ahead of its Valentine's Day release next year. It's Emerald Fennell's follow-up to Saltburn, which is a very Wuthering Heights-esque movie, I would say. So if you like Saltburn, you have a really high likelihood of liking Wuthering Heights. But this is one of several adaptations of this classic book. It's a very steamy and divisive classic novel that gets into themes like class and race pretty deeply, and it's a really fascinating read. One of my favorites. I'm making my way through it again right now ahead of this release. But did you watch the trailer, and what did you think of the trailer?
Yeah, let me get your take first. What did you think of the trailer? Because you have read the book. I'm not familiar at all.
I really liked the trailer a lot. I had some hesitations going in. I think we'll talk about the casting. I have some issues around the casting, but in terms of the actual trailer itself, I think it was really impressive, and it sold me quite a bit on liking this because I did not like Saltburn much. I think just because it lacked a lot of the complexity that Wuthering Heights had. It seemed like it was taking a lot of the aesthetics of these types of books, but not really taking any of the thematic value of them, right? And my hesitation is around okay, Emerald Fennell clearly captures the aesthetics of Wuthering Heights really well, and I love the way the dresses look and the castle looks and all of this stuff. But is she going to completely miss the meaning of this book? Is it just going to be about the sex scenes and all of the crazy boundary pushing stuff and not have anything to actually say about the themes here? Because when I look at something, especially the Elordi casting, I start to question
What do you
that.
think about the race change? Yeah.
Because in the book, the character is pretty clearly described as having dark skin and facial features that you would typically describe as someone from a foreign country in the way that she describes him. They don't call him directly like a foreigner or use the term black or anything like that. But the way that his character is written, it seems like that's the way it is. And he faces pretty harsh rejection trying to climb into the higher classes, and everyone kind of on site rejects him as part of them. So it's pretty heavily written as a minority character, and
Yeah, I don't know how
I don't
well
like that casting.
I don't know how well that being rejected works when you're Jacob Elordi. Like, you literally look like, I mean, they were gonna have him be Superman. He looks like the hot, if you were gonna recast, if you want a new Batman, that guy looks like Bruce Wayne. I'm not saying he'd be good as Batman, but that guy looks like Bruce Wayne. And so, does that? I don't know how that. It's that thing that they do a lot in movies where they get a very traditionally attractive woman to play an ugly nerd, and it's people don't like her. I love Bumblebee, but Haley Steinfeld is the pretty girl, and she's getting it can happen, but they want you to think that this is the super unlikable ugly person, and it's I don't know. We'll see. I love Saltburn. I love Promising Woman. I think this looks great. I'm not familiar with the book. I'll probably read it, listen to it for movie. I love the aesthetic. It looks absolutely beautiful. And Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi both look like they're just. I mean, what excites me about this based on the trailer is a romance actually like working, like it actually feel the like you feel that romantic tension, and I also really like the song that was done by Charlie XCX. I thought that really added to everything. But I think nothing is as good in that trailer as the cinematography. Like, holy
It
shit.
looks incredible, and those landscape shots and everything. It looks gorgeous, and yeah, I like the music. It has that out of place kind of feel to it, where a lot of the stuff in this trailer feels slightly out of place. Like the dresses are not like of the time and that kind of stuff. It has a lot of modern day visuals and stuff like that. I'm really curious to see how much of that is in the movie. Like how much do they blend timelines
Yeah.
together and that kind of thing.
Just last year, I thought was lacking kind of with cinematography. Um, this year looks like it's going to be great. I mean, we have this Hamnet, Knives Out 3, and then Avatar 3 will probably be gorgeous. I mean, like this looks like it's gonna be a good year for cinematography. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. I'm curious how the book is. I'll probably read the book. Um, and this comes out when does this come out?
February of next year.
So is it eligible for?
It'll be eligible for next year's Oscars, not this year's Oscars. Like it'll be eligible for the 2020 7 Oscars for the 2026 movies.
Oh, that's a weird choice.
Yeah, it sounds. We'll see it in February, especially. It's already tested. Like the movie has been done for a while, and it sounds like it was not testing especially extremely well. So I wonder if it was not. It was a potential awards player this year that did not come to fruition. They're just putting it out next year to kind of get some Valentine's Day money out of it.
All right. Okay. It's interesting. And then we have, or do we want to move on to the next?
Yeah, I got nothing to say about that. I am really excited for it, though. I hope Fennell has the the juice to pull that thing off, because if they nail this, I could really like be eating some crow when it comes to Saltburn. But I appreciated Saltburn, but it lacked a lot of the complexity that I think this book offers to her, and I hope she takes that offering, right. Like when she has that on the plate, is she going to go for it? Because it's here to be used if she wants it to be.
So we can move on to
Fede Alvarez.
yeah.
He is not returning for Alien Romulus. Instead of writing some summaries for this, I just like put this in the chat GPT and I said, make an alien movie, but make it worse.
Jeez. I do not think that he left. Just left. He was fired, and Jeff Snyder theorized this, and I believe he's probably right that like he was not. He didn't leave. He was fired because he wanted to do some things that maybe Ridley Scott wanted to do in his upcoming Alien movie. That Jeff Snyder's heard that he wanted to use David. He wanted to use Fassbender, and Ridley Scott was like, well, no, I want to use Fassbender. I also think that it might not even have been specifically David. Like, he just wanted more control. Like, he made that joke on the red carpet of Romulus that, there's Ridley came in and interfered. I don't think he's joking. I think Ridley did interfere, and I think that's maybe why there's so much nostalgia and fan service in that movie is Ridley's like, no, I want it to be like this. I want it to be like this. And at that point, just direct the movie, dude. Like, if you want that much control, just direct, at least write the movie or something,
If I was making predictions, I would probably say that Ridley Scott was not the contributor of the nostalgia stuff, and it was probably the director of Evil Dead who did that. But yeah, it's interesting that Alien has like these competing franchises essentially happening at the same time. Like Fede Alvarez has his thing going on, Noah Hawley has his TV show going on, Ridley Scott's swearing on Bibles that he has an Alien movie coming out. I wonder, like, what is the Alien franchise cooking? Did he get fired, or was it more just like, look, you guys are going in like a franchise direction that I'm not really feeling, so like, let's just like sever ties, right? I think it might have just been like, look, I got you guys a good, successful movie out of it, but like, we're clearly looking for different things here.
He also said that Gladiator 3 is happening.
Yeah, okay.
I can't wait.
That last movie made a lot of money, though, so I do think this franchise is alive and well, and it seems like Alien Earth is doing all right, so what is the franchise here cooking, especially with Predator looming in the end of the year? Like, was there something like, oh, Fed, if you want to do a crossover movie, and he was like, I'm not doing a crossover movie, and he was like, they were like, okay, then you can leave, you
The
know?
first, the first person you mentioned to take over is Lee Cronin, and I think that'd be incredible. Like, make an alien movie that's truly terrifying. Because what's like the scariest alien movie since the original?
Covenant, maybe, and that's not really saying much.
Yeah, I guess, but yeah, no, nothing has been truly terrifying like that original movie. And to me, Evil Dead Rise is out of all the like the studio horror movies in the last few years, that's probably the scariest one. That and Smile. I know you mentioned him, and I think that could be good. But I think Lee Cronin fits more with Alien, especially after doing Evil Dead Rise.
Yeah, he took over from Fede Alvarez previously off of his Evil Dead
Yeah,
remake. So I wonder if there's some, good blood there. I
it
also
was.
want to bring up Dan Trachtenberg. We talked about how this franchise seems to be heading in a crossover direction. I wonder if they're going to go to the reliable Alien guy who gave them Prey and Alien Badland or Predator Badlands. Maybe they're going to say, look, the next Alien movie is essentially the next Predator movie, right? This is all one franchise now. If that's where they're going, that they give to Dan Trachtenberg.
I now that is interesting. You mentioned Scott Derrickson.
Let's
That
just go name by name. How you feeling about Dane Trachtenberg?
I mean I really liked Prey, but I don't have really strong thoughts on that. Um,
Because to me, that would spell like they're definitely going towards a crossover franchise route. Like they would want to have a unified feel to all of these movies, and I would not like that personally. I think that they need to have this feel different, right? And I think Fede Alvarez's movie did. Like there was a lot of nostalgia and stuff, but like aesthetically, it looked really good. It didn't look like any kind of cheap movie. I don't want it to feel unified like that.
and Radio Silence, I don't know about that. That doesn't feel right to me. That I don't think that fits.
Yeah, it really depends on what direction they're trying to go. Like, if
Yeah,
they want something more on the comedic side, more like leaning towards the youth, they could go Radio Silence. I also brought up Nia DaCosta.
yeah. I love Candyman. I don't know if based on that movie at least, I see her working with Alien. That feels like a different kind of. I mean, maybe it would be great. I don't know what she's capable of because we haven't seen that much from her. Um, but if they announce that, I wouldn't be mad. Parker Finn, that could work. I don't know if like his style is something that audiences want from an Alien movie though, but he could probably make it work. I mean, the Smile movies worked for audiences,
Yeah,
but
he's already attached to Smile 3, so I would think he'd probably have to get that done first.
yeah.
And I don't know how, seemingly we want to move quickly on this Alien thing, so I would not go with Parker Finn, but I think that would be a interesting fit.
And Noah Hawley, I don't know. I'm not in love with Alien Earth. It's interesting. It's an interesting concept. Um, it's it's interesting. It's not. I do appreciate that it's not just like another alien thing. Um, and then that's interesting. I don't know if that would. I don't know if she would do an alien movie.
I have Coralie Farge off of The Substance.
Yeah,
She's got the gore down in her, and she's got like the feminist horror bit in
yeah,
her. They could really lean into the feminism of Alien, the kind of like sexual imagery of Alien. There's a lot of like complexity you can get into the body horror of Alien. I feel like if they really want to dive into the body horror angle, body horror is so huge. Right now, we're seeing stuff like Together come out and make so much money. I wonder if they get her and they try and have the cred of like, oh, we got the Substance director to do our
yeah,
Alien movie and like really lean into the gore throughout all the marketing and
yeah.
that kind of stuff.
I don't. Yeah, I don't know if I see that one happening, but I see you saved the best for last. Well,
I tried.
the second last one is Lee Winnell. Good old Lee Winnell. I don't know. Wolfman was not a raging success. I don't know.
No.
I don't. Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah, see, that was my ultimate question: is will they upgrade or will they downgrade? Like, they're gonna go for someone that's a great pick, or are they gonna go for like oh god, we're done?
yeah, Sam, and then Sam Raimi. That's too good. Like that's too perfect. I don't. Oh god, it is Disney.
Yeah, and he has a great history with Disney recently. He made him a lot of money off of Multiverse of Madness.
I could see that happening. Now that would be such an upgrade. Like I thought the horror was good in Alien Romulus, but Sam Raimi, man, I mean, that's not even there's no competition there, not at all.
He would capture so much of the frantic energy and the running through the hallways and the locking of the doors at the last second. I could see it happening. It almost feels too good to be true. Like, he's such an individual visionary. Are they going to get somebody like that in here where clearly even Fede Alvarez had problems with the studio and they wouldn't let him do what he wanted to do. They wouldn't let him use what he wanted to use. Is Sam Raimi going to work like that, right? I don't know if he has that in him. He tried to do it in Multiverse of Madness, and it seemed like it didn't really work out right. Like, it was a good movie, but I think the clashing of the tones is a lot of the reason that it didn't like overall smash with the MCU fans in that way, right? So I wonder if that clashing would also happen here, especially if Ridley Scott is trying to stick his foot in the door, right? Like, we can't avoid that elephant in the room. Like, is this Alien Romulus sequel going to just be Ridley Scott's
Yeah, I
Alien
was
movie?
just about to say that. Is Ridley Scott's Alien movie just going to be it's this, you know?
It doesn't make sense to have all of these other franchises going on. Like, we have the Predator thing happening. Like, I'm not saying there's 100% going to be Alien versus Predator franchise. Like, that's a big leap, but I feel like that's a direction that could go. But if Ridley Scott is trying to like re-engineer this franchise, would he want to do a Predator crossover with that? Like, I just don't see that. I don't know how all of these things can happen at the same time.
Yeah, I don't know. But I guess we can move on to, if you want to move
Yeah,
on to.
I'm ready. Let's do some
Yeah,
reviews. We've been here
yeah,
for an
yeah.
hour covering the news. Let's get to the reviews. Let's start with you. You saw the early screening today of Scarlett Johansson's directorial debut, Eleanor the Great, starring June Squibb. Was shown today as a mystery movie at AMC theaters. It comes out, I believe, next week. I looked it up while you're talking. But what do you think of the movie?
Same weekend as One Battle After Another.
What did you think? How was it?
I really love this movie. I really love this movie. It is her directorial debut. It stars June Squibb, who is in her 90s, finally getting attention in her 90s, and it tells the story of, not gonna brush around the bush, it's Dear Evan Hansen with a Holocaust survivor. Like, this movie is about a woman who's been living with her best friend of 70 years, who is a Holocaust survivor, and has struggled with sharing that. And she unfortunately passed away, and she moves back to New York, and she goes to a class at the JCC that she doesn't know what it's going to be. It turns out it's a Holocaust survivor support group, and they're like, "So share your story," and she's like, "My story is like about the Holocaust," and she's like, "Wait, what do you mean? No, stay." And I don't know if this is the case, but the way the scenes are shot, it seems like at least a few of these people might be actual Holocaust survivors that they got into to film. But she's like, and they're like, stay, and then she lies and says, basically, she tells the story of her friend because her friend's no longer there, and it's a movie about grief, and she strikes this relationship with a young woman played by Erin Kellyman from Falcon Winter Soldier and Solo, and it's about their relationship. She sparks this relationship with this young woman. She doesn't have a great relationship with her family, not a good relationship at all, and so they bond, and it's this drama about grief and loss, and it's about deception. I mean, she is lying to all these people, and honestly, it does what Dear Evan Hansen failed to do very well, because this movie knows it's wrong, and she knows it's bad, and she doesn't want to hold on to this. She wants to stop, but she doesn't know how to. And it's, I think the best part of this movie is the comedy and the drama. It's mixed so well, and there's that line, and you don't know how to do that line well, because June Squibb will be making a joke, and then you'll have a very, very serious moment. And I think she does deserve an Academy Award nomination. I mean, the way she mixes the comedy and the drama, you're like, this is so funny, and then she sells this moment, and you're like sobbing. And I think this movie is going to do very well, at least in terms of performance. I think I see her getting in. Also, looks like to be a weak year in terms of award season, so I think she's going to get in. But yeah, I really was very moved by this movie, and Scarlett Johansson also does this weird thing where characters like, oh no, I hope this thing doesn't happen, and then they just cut to that thing already happened. And I thought that was a very interesting creative choice. When this premiered at a film festival, though, it did not get the longest standing ovation, and the reviews are not the greatest. So I don't know, but the Academy does like to nominate movies that were not always received that well. But I want to give a shout out to Erin Kellyman, who gives a really great dramatic performance. Like, her character lost her mother, and that's how they connect. She has that grief that she can't get over, and she hasn't really gotten a moment to shine. You know, she was in Solo and Falcon Winter Soldier, and I'm really glad because she's really incredible. Her performance was very moving in this. I don't know if she will get any awards attention, but she deserved to. Chiwetel Ejiofor is also really good. He doesn't have as much to do, but he's very good.
I want to interrupt here for a second and mention that you are correct that she made the choice to use real Holocaust survivors in this scene for the support group, which is an interesting choice. And she also worked very closely with the Shoah Foundation to make sure that the subplots involving Holocaust survivors were very accurate to the actual experiences.
That's really cool. And that's one thing I want to mention is this movie it's comedic, but it feels so genuine. Like, it doesn't feel like it's just, when I first saw that review from Film Festival, it's like Dear Evan Hansen, I'm like, oh, this movie going to be terrible. But no, it handles it with such grace and care, and it feels like Scarlett Johansson really does truly care about this. And she has some personal stuff in her life with grief and loss, and maybe she knew Holocaust survivors. It feels so genuine and close to her heart. And I'm not particularly the biggest fan of Scarlett Johansson as an actress or like a person, but I have to stand her here because she really did a great job, and I could see her. I mean, we could. I don't know, but I'm actually rooting for Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah, how was your direction? Was there anything like super notable about it, or was it just like a pretty competent drama? Was there anything like stylishly special about it?
Yeah, there weren't any real stylistic. I will say it's a great New York movie, and you feel like this is New York. And one thing I really appreciate this movie is it's not afraid to be Jewish. You know, in a time where Israel is committing heinous acts, you know, people are shying away from their Judaism. You saw like Fantastic Four, they're trying to hide it, but here they're not trying to hide it. They straight up, she's going to the JCC. You know, they're saying Jewish phrases left and right, and there are even Jewish actors in the film. And Scarlett Johansson herself is half Jewish. You know, so I really appreciated that, and that was really cool. And also I don't know her name, but the actress who plays the mother, she was in Breaking Bad, the woman, you know, the couple that screwed over Walt.
Her name is Jessica Hecht. She played Gretchen in Breaking Bad.
Yeah, Gretchen Elliott. She was very good. But yeah, this is June Squibb's movie, and she's one of the funniest people in Hollywood right now. Like, I laughed at I can't even describe. You're laughing and then you're sobbing. I mean, I haven't been this moved by a film in a while. I will say it's not perfect. Like, she does make these weird choices where she just like cuts to something and that thing already happened, and stuff like that was weird, but really solid, you know, directorial debut. And I'm really curious how this pans out in award season.
Yeah, it's currently sitting at 64% on Rotten Tomatoes with 36 reviews. It debuted, like I said, at the Cannes Film Festival to somewhat divisive reception. Not like it's shatteringly bad or anything like that, but it wasn't like you got to see this. But it did. I will say, all the negative reviews I'm reading on here all mention like June Squibb is great though. So I think your prediction that she will be at least in the conversation around awards season is probably accurate. I could see her getting around the Golden Globes and that kind of stuff. I don't know if I'm going to put her in my 5 for the Oscars just yet right now, just because of the middling reception of the movie as a whole. But I'm glad you have it on the radar, because I do want to. It was something I would never have watched if you hadn't watched it tonight and recommended it. So
I could see them framing it as like, oh, we're giving another Holocaust movie performance. You know, they did it. They did it last year, and there's always that movie that they just give it like one acting award, and they don't really care about it otherwise or award it otherwise. And I could see it as like a career award. You know, she's been working for so long and has not been noticed, really.
Yeah, she was kind of on the potential radar. I think it was last year, the year before, with the movie. So, you know, she's in there a little bit. So I could see it being on the conversation for sure. Don't write her out yet.
Yeah, and Yeah, but yeah, I would definitely recommend it. But it's not. It's weird. It's a weird concept. It's a wild concept for a movie. But I admire Scarlett Johansson for not playing it safe.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what she does next. I'm glad you liked it because I'm curious what her future as a director. She's been wanting to be a director for like her whole career, so I'm happy she got to do it here, and I'm excited to see what she does next. Do you think there's anything you would like to see her work on, like any genres or any like franchises you want to see her touch?
I honestly don't know because it's not like the directing isn't
Mm-hmm.
phenomenal. It's more like the journey around with the characters is. I honestly don't know, and I don't know how this film is going to be received. It seems like it's probably just kind of gonna come and go and be one of those that people don't really remember. Um, but I really was a big fan of it.
Yeah, we'll definitely check it out. And like you said, it comes out on September, let's see, 26th in the United
Yeah,
States. So if you're looking for something to watch us off the radar, maybe you hadn't heard of before, September 26th, you can check out Eleanor the Great.
one
Ari highly recommends it.
yeah, one battle after Eleanor.
All right, let's move on from there to Dexter Resurrection. I will lead this conversation because I'm the one that watched this one, and you're on the outside looking in for this. Michael C. Hall has returned as Dexter Morgan again, again this time. He's back for real this time. We're actually going to fix the brand this time, guys. And they kind of did it. Dexter this time finds himself in a totally new location. He's in New York City on the run as his young son, Harrison, is now a young adult trying to make it in the world, living with the trauma of what happened to him and what happened to his father, and questioning if he can actually live a normal life. So you get kind of like these parallel narratives of Dexter trying to come back into his life and reconnect with his son, and you follow Harrison trying to find a way to live without his father. So you follow both of those characters. It's a really great balance of Dexter and Harrison. I think it's more heavily on Michael C. Hall's Dexter than I kind of thought it was going to be. Like I was wondering if this was going to be like Michael C. Hall is here, but it's really a way to launch like the Harrison Morgan show. But no, this is Dexter. Dexter is back. He's the main character. There's whole episode that they're all about him the whole time. And I really was happy to see it back. I think this was a huge return to form for Dexter. It was led by a really stacked cast. I think helped a lot too. Outside of this, Michael C. Hall, you had people like David Desmelchin, Kristen Ritter, and Neil Patrick Harris showing up here and there. By the nature of the show, some of them are only in there for like an episode, but some of them are there for a lot longer than that, right? And I really loved what the show is doing with all those characters. Uma Thurman is great in this. Peter Dinklage is great in this. I think both of those are probably the guest stars to talk the most about. But I loved the return of Dexter. I think it. I mentioned like something like Saltburn. It was so aesthetically interesting, but it didn't have much to say. And I was surprised that this season of Dexter like actually seemed to have a lot to say about social commentary and about class and about like who's responsible for harming people. And there's a subplot in here where a landlord is refusing to fix problems in the apartment and it's making people get sick. And is that landlord a killer? Like, is he a murderer? Does he fit the code, or is he just kind of a scumbag who's using capitalism for his own gain? If you're a CEO of a major corporation, your major corporation is living off of slave labor, are you a murderer, or are you just kind of using the system for your own gain? And asks a lot of very interesting questions and pushes Dexter's code to a lot of interesting lengths where you really start to question like what is this guy really doing something for the right reasons, or is this guy just someone who wants to kill, right? And I really love this turn for the character. I'm hoping that they do another season of this. I don't think that they've actually officially announced another season, but it seems like they will do one. I really hope they do because I had a great time with this. I think it's going to be doing well at the Emmys. There's an episode here Michael C. Hall gives like an incredible monologue where it feels like he's just begging for an award, and it genuinely feels like prestige TV mixing with like the camp drama of Dexter. It's a really, really great collage of tones, and I highly recommend it. Unfortunately, if you haven't seen the original show of Dexter, you're probably not going to get much out of this, especially early on. The first episode like relies heavily on you remembering stuff and remembering characters and that kind of a thing. It doesn't work super well as an entry point, but if you have familiarity with Dexter and you jump in here, you'll be all good. So I definitely recommend it for Dexter fans, even if you haven't finished the entire show. If you just have some familiarity with like the high points of Dexter, you'll be okay. Any questions, Ari? Is there someone who's only watched like the first few episodes, but you did watch the prequel show? So I'm curious if you have any questions for me about Dexter Resurrection.
I would just ask. Well, my questions to ask probably involve spoilers, but does it connect at all to the events that happen in that show?
It connects in a way because the show does the prequel begins, from what I understand, with the ending of New Blood, which
Yeah.
is essentially the beginning of Resurrection, right? So there are elements in a returning character, like the main. I'll spoil one small little plot point because it's early on in the show, but the major returning character from the original show is Angel Batista, who also, from what I understand, has a major role in the Dexter prequel. So that is probably your biggest through line of like you're seeing Angel and Dexter reuniting, go back and see, the origin of their lifelong friendship, right? Because there are lines here and there about how they've known each other for their whole lives, and you can get that filled in by going back and watching the prequel. So
I,
I think that's a good
I'd
through line.
like to see Patrick Dempsey show up as a ghost if other characters can show up as ghosts, because that is a very important. He plays a very important role in that prequel series. Also, it's Patrick Dempsey,
You got to get more Patrick Dempsey,
and you gotta watch that. And normally you wouldn't want to watch a canceled show, but with this it's different, right? Because it's like part of Dexter, and they might even bring these actors back for season 2 of the show.
Yeah, I would love to see if they're going to bring anybody back. James Remar is iconic as Dexter's father, and Dexter's father kind of exists as like a conscience in his head throughout the entirety of Dexter, right? He's there to kind of give him fatherly advice, but he's not a ghost. He's a figment of Dexter's imagination. And I wonder if James Remar will at some point be beyond the point where he wants to do this. He's getting pretty old. Will they bring in Christian Slater? Make Christian Slater be like the ghost of his father's past? I could see that being a way to have a connection to the show. But it's unfortunate that prequel got canceled because it would have been fun to see these both exist simultaneously and bleed into one another.
I saw some bizarre coping on social media where someone was literally like, and I brought this to you, and you were like, "Yeah, I don't know about that." Where someone was like, "Do you think that they will now renew Original Sin after canceling it?" And like, I'd love that to happen, but that's not how that works.
I think something also come of Dexter, like if there is a Trinity Killer spinoff, if there is an Angel prequel, like something else is going to come of this Dexter universe. It's unfortunate the prequel is not that, but yeah, they canceled it after already knowing it, so they clearly have some kind of like plan here for the future. I'm
Is the Trinity
hoping it's
Killer
good.
spinoff, is that something that was officially announced?
No, but it's been in the rumors for a long time. Something that like has come and gone. I think that might be where they end up going. But yeah, in terms of Dexter Resurrection, I really hope we get another season of this. It ends where you could easily have another season, but I highly recommend it. And yeah, Ari, you got to catch up on Dexter so you can watch this thing. It's an absolute return to form. Like if you were lost by Dexter after the first 4 seasons are great, and you're like, what the hell am I watching? This is not only is it among the best seasons of Dexter, like it might be the best season of Dexter. Like it has all of that comedy, all of that fun character stuff remember from the first 4 seasons, and it has that injection of like modern day prestige TV where it feels like it's saying something and it feels like it's very modern and contemporary and not just repeating itself. The change of location helps a lot. Getting him out of Miami and into a totally new world where he's got new characters and new problems.
I will definitely catch up, and it'd be cool if they go back to Miami for season 2, because then we'll be able to play all that GTA with the soundtrack or whatever from the new season.
Yeah, it's fun to see how modernized it got. He's working as essentially an Uber driver, and you laugh because you can just imagine like Uber driver is a serial killer, like the worst possible driver you could possibly get, Dexter Morgan, and you wouldn't even know it.
Or the best.
Or the best.
If you have not done heinous things, then you're in good hands. They got to do that Joe Goldberg crossover. Because the thing is, in terms of who's the better person, Dexter doesn't creep on women, you know.
Not exactly. At least Dexter has like these illusions of doing something good, and this season definitely dissects that of like are you actually doing something good, or are you just somebody who wants to kill people? Like what does Dexter look like if he actually tries to be a good person and have a full life? And can Dexter even exist without the killing? Like that's something I would wonder if season 2 could get into. Like, what does Dexter look like if he gives up killing? Right? Like if he says, "I'm going to live my best life. I'm not going to be a killer anymore. I have Harrison," or something like that, and he starts to struggle with that.
Are there any serious connections to the first season of Dexter?
Cameos from characters,
Okay.
but yeah, not plot wise. It connects to New Blood pretty heavily, but it doesn't plot wise connect to Dexter super heavily. But
Does
there's a lot of crossover characters.
Okay. Okay. Um, we should move on to another show that just came out. The Paper, the spinoff of The Office, from the same showrunner, Greg Daniels. They did not do a reboot. They did not do a revival. And honestly, I've not finished the show, but I'm really close. I'm glad they didn't. It's refreshing. They didn't need to do, because the show is really good. You know, they could have just brought everyone back and did a sequel series, but I'm glad they did this because this is really good. I'll start out with Domhnall Gleeson. I think this is what he's been waiting for. I think this is what his career has led up to. He hasn't really been able to find his footing. He's given great performances, but he hasn't had, that thing. And I think he fits perfectly here. And what's so great is, like, it's wholesome, it's heartwarming. Like, it's the opposite of Michael Scott. Michael Scott was the asshole, the misogynist. This guy's just a nice guy. Like, he is that, like, he is upper class and everything, but he's not likable, like Clark Kent. Like, he even references Clark Kent in the first episode. He's just that, and he's so good. He's so funny. He's so charming. And the show isn't consistently, like, hilarious, but it is funny enough where you're like, okay, it's solid comedy, but the drama is almost just as good as the comedy. You buy into him. You buy into his budding relationship with, and I gotta. Do you know the actress's name who
I
plays?
do not know the actress's name. I'll look it up for you right now. But I did think the chemistry was great. It was Chelsea Frey, I believe is how you
Chelsea
pronounce her
Gray.
name.
She's fantastic. She was in one episode of Poker Face. I'm not too familiar with her as an actress, but she was great. The chemistry is great. Their comedic timing is just so good. And the actor who played Oscar in The Office returns, and he's a lot of fun. He's a lot of fun. He's just like, why are you guys here? You were out of my life. Why did you come back? And I didn't like it the first time. I don't like it this time. He's just my favorite joke from the show might be when he says, "I'm 55," and they say, "No, you're not." He says, "Okay, I'm 59. Big deal, okay?" And then they cut to a text that says, "That's a blatant lie. He's 61."
Yeah,
Um,
I love that returning character. And yeah, you mentioned that this is not not like a full-on revival, and it's also not a reboot. Like, this is set in the same world of The Office. The opening few minutes orient us pretty directly into The Office, and they show us what The Office looks like now. Like, that was so interesting to see. As we see The Office, we see the space that once was Dunder Mifflin. It's occupied by a totally different company now, but when you look at it in the opening sequences, they say, look, this paper company went kapunked, got bought out by some big mega corporation that also owns this small town paper. So that's our in on, like, it's this small town paper that is, like, owned by the multi mega corporation that bought out Dunder Mifflin, and it has this fun connective tissue of Oscar, but outside of Oscar, there's not any, like, returning plot lines or anything like that. So similarly to, like I mentioned, Dexter had not a lot of returning characters, but it felt like with Dexter you had to watch Dexter to really understand Resurrection. And with the paper, at least from Ari's perspective, you don't have to be familiar with The Office to like the paper. It doesn't like pull on plot threads or anything like that. But yeah, I also love that it was, like you said, the opposite, right? Where the worst version of the worst boss ever in the 2000s was that racist, misogynistic asshole who's just rude to everybody, and you're just trying to work in this new PC world, and he's being crazy in the office. And today, the worst boss ever is somebody who's just really, really, really earnest and loves to work and loves his job, and he makes you, like, want to work really hard, and it feels like it plays on that stereotype of, like, people don't really want to work today, or at least, like, people don't care that much about the jobs today, right? And I think that's pretty true. Is, like, people are pretty distance from their labor right now, right? People don't really care about what they're doing for their jobs, and they're all like, they hate their bosses and they hate their jobs, they hate their companies, and then this boss comes in who loves his job, loves his company, thinks being the editor in chief of a paper is the best thing ever in the entire world. And I can see how that could just be really, really annoying if you're just like, God, I want to go to work and slack off and make my fake articles and then go home. And then this guy comes in and he cares about journalism. Like, what are we doing here? But that's a fun journey of seeing these characters who are kind of oddballs, no clue what they're doing, no clue how to write an article, how to make a paper. But yet this guy's just genuineness and like wholesomeness inspires them enough to like become better people. I really enjoyed this show. It's not laugh out loud funny a lot of the times, but it's pretty good. And I like this cast a lot. They made it a lot further along, like in the dramatic route. The Office took a few seasons to really make you care about the characters in terms of their like lives and their interpersonal relationships. This is making you care about that from the very beginning. So they're clearly ahead of the curve on that. I like this show. I watched season 2. It's interesting that got renewed for season 2 prior to even airing any of the episodes. But hey, I'm looking forward to season 2. This is not going to be like the top of my list for the shows of the year, but it's going to definitely be among like my surprises of the year, right? Because I kind of written this off as like, oh, it's going to be some terrible Office prequel that's going to inevitably be not funny at all and like, really toned down or whatever. And it was not. It was totally different. Like it has the same style overall, but it feels much more in line with Parks and Recreation than it does with The Office.
It's kind of similar to The Pit in that this show, led by an actor who maybe isn't appreciated or hasn't found his footing like he should have. And then it's also about an industry that needs to be focused on. Journalism right now more than ever needs to be focused on. And did you think it was a good commentary on journalism?
I thought so, and I think it was especially a good commentary on the people who make journalism happen, right? Like we look at websites and articles as just like these things that appear out of nowhere, and especially in the AI age, that's written off, right? And like these quirky individual people who make the news happen are what make journalism so special, right? These small town papers keeping it going are what make journalism so special. So I really appreciated that commentary, and it was interesting that like the actual doing of the job is so important in the show, right? Because selling paper was not what The Office was about. That was just a way to get the characters in the same room, right? And the paper is very directly about like making journalism better and selling the paper and improving the paper. That gives it a much more like plot oriented structure that I think is interesting because the work in The Office is barely there at all. It's just an excuse to set things up, whereas the paper is actually interested in that.
What did you think about Julia Butters' cameo? Julia Butters. She's a little girl from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. She was just on Friday. She's
I was like, who?
Kids, where the kids come in, and then that one guy has that really really weird uncomfortable moment. Where like, can we come and shadow you? And then that one kid just like turns and looks at the camera. I thought that was fun. Is this gonna be her career? Being in stuff like the paper, Freakier Friday. Is she gonna be in just this fun, really breezy stuff? I think that might be where she's headed. I mean, Freakier Friday was not a massive success. It was a reasonable success, but I thought she was fun in it. You would have thought though after Hollywood that she's gonna be in all this big stuff, and then COVID happened. I thought she was fun. I really liked that episode. I really liked the show. It might not be amazing, but it's a lot better than it could have been. This show could have been horrible. I mean, this show could have been really painfully unfunny and really annoying, and maybe it is to some. But I thought it was really good, and I really liked Donald Gleason. I think it might be a bit much though if they have like Brendan Gleeson show up as his dad in the scene. It'd be fun.
Yeah, I'm curious if season 2 ends up doing more Office crossovers. Like, do they bring in more of the characters? And Steve Carell's probably not going to come back, but like a lot of the Office staff will probably come back. Pam will come back. That kind of stuff.
John Krasinski would definitely do it.
And there's a whole Office Ladies podcast. They have a whole. I think it's Phyllis and Pam and Angela all have a podcast together where they rewatch The Office. They came to visit the set of the paper. So I would imagine they may show up
And
next
look at
season.
the career of some of those actors where they just do ads. Look, it's the guy from The Office. Like,
Yeah, Creed's not going to show up. Come on, what's he doing?
yeah, I think that's gonna happen. Um,
I hope it's not too much though, because like I said, what made this feel so special is that it was
yeah,
not doing The Office again. It was totally different, and it'll be interesting to see those characters in this environment because the tone and style of the show is a lot different. It's a lot more wholesome, a lot more positive, a lot more similar to like the last couple seasons of The Office, where it became much more wholesome than it originally was. It'll be fun to see some of those characters again, though. I would love to see how their lives are going.
um, Len. Now I think we should move on to the quick stories that
Yeah, to run through some stuff here.
that
Not
big. The big one is Call of Duty. We heard that news last week about Call of Duty movie, but it sounds like Spielberg's the one who pitched the idea to Activision, and they said no. They said no, Steven Spielberg. Um,
Yeah, we talked about Spielberg as one of the main names in the conversation of like, wouldn't his Call of Duty movie be great? But we also were like, is that too big? Like, would he ever do a Call of Duty movie? That seems like too much. You know, he's not going to do that. Apparently, he wanted to, but yeah, Activision got cold feet, decided to sell it to Paramount instead. Doesn't mean he's not going to do it with Paramount necessarily, but Spielberg wanted to have full creative control over Call of Duty. He wanted even down to like Final Cut on the editing floor. He wanted it to be his movie, and Activision was like, I don't know about that. Like this is our biggest brand. It's the highest selling video game. You know, every single year it comes out. I don't think we're going to let you just do whatever you want. So
and
that ends up not happening.
as much as I love Spielberg, like, is anyone who's going to see Call of Duty movie going to be like, oh, Spielberg's doing it? Now I'm so much more excited.
I think so, honestly, yes. Like you tell people the director of Saving Private Ryan is making Call of Duty, everyone will come. Like, I think that the problem is Spielberg is not necessarily in like a huge high spot in his career. You know, he's had a lot of like misses, but he's doing all right. And I think this would have been a huge win for Activision and just like a giant mistake. Like if they had come out a couple of years ago with the Spielberg Call of Duty movie, they could have kicked off the video game movie craze earlier, right? Because they could have had Spielberg making an amazing war film with the Call of Duty name on it. And that's all you've got to do. But it's
What would
unfortunate that didn't work out.
what would you like to see this movie be? Because for me, I think how you want to go is have two perspectives. Maybe the American perspective and then maybe the Vietnamese perspective. Maybe you have it set during the Vietnamese War, and the first half of the movie is you're following both sides and sympathizing with both sides. So when they do kill each other, you don't want anyone to die, and you care about everyone. I think that would be a really cool direction to go in.
Yeah, I'm really curious how they go with this. Call of Duty has had multiple perspectives on a lot of its video games. That's kind of like a staple of the franchise where you'll follow multiple people, sometimes from different sides, but sometimes just from like various factions of the battle, you know? So I'm excited for it, but God, I would have loved to see Spielberg. And yeah, how do you say no to Spielberg and then you go hand it to
I think
Paramount,
it's
man?
because we are in a place now where people like Scorsese, maybe Spike Lee, just can't get funding. They're not looked at how they used to be looked at. They're not pulling in that money. So I think that's the honest answer, unfortunately.
Let's move on to the next story. Don't go in that house, bitch. Snoop Dogg, he has joined Eli Roth for the Ultimate Haunted House movie. This is for Roth's new ultra indie horror studio called the Horror Section, which he launched only 5 months ago with the goal of quick launching horror franchises. He's talked about how IP like Art the Clown is the future of horror, and he wants to like lead the future of horror. His most recent release through Horror Section was Jimmy and Stiggs, which came out not that long ago. And if you're one of the very very small amount of people who watched that movie, you saw that they had a fake trailer to "Don't Go in the House, Bitch" with Snoop Dogg in the trailer. So if you want to get a tease of what this movie might be like, go check out Jimmy and Stiggs. There's a little teaser in there for this movie.
I guess if he really marketed it to his fans, because Snoop Dogg's so popular, I mean, I could see this doing well.
He'll be writing and producing the soundtrack, so I think that would be really cool. You get a lot of like new Snoop Dogg music. It could be a lot of fun. Like if he's going to be in the movie, it could be a lot of fun too. Like he narrates the fake trailer. It could be a thing where like Snoop Dogg is telling a scary story or something. So he narrates. Maybe he has like a layer thing, or he's at the front and the back of the movie, or maybe he's the main character. Would that not be fun to see Snoop Dogg in a haunted house? You know?
Yeah, just don't just don't have any gay people around the corner, because then Snoop Dogg is gonna get scared.
Yeah, that's the real ghost. He'll be haunted by gay people.
Yeah.
His
Did
biggest
did
fear.
you did you see that his apology to that was he just said, "My bad."
That's my bad.
That's the funniest celebrity apology I've ever seen in my entire life. Literally says homophobic things like, "Oh, my bad." But yeah, let's
We got the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Talking of horror, that's one of the hot things in the market right now. All these studios are trying to make Texas Chainsaw Massacre happen. We have like a Joel Edgerton movie cooking that might not be coming. Netflix is saying we're going to make one. They made one before that was not particularly good, but they're saying there's another one. Meanwhile, though, A24 is leading the charge for not just the movie rights, but also the TV rights for Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
JT Molnar and Glenn Powell are producing, and to me that's interesting. Glenn Powell not involved in an acting capacity right now. He could be in the future though. That's interesting to me. He's from Texas. He does live in Austin, and I believe the lead actor, one of the lead actors from the McConaughey one, maybe one of the other ones, actually did live in Austin. So he has that Texas connection. I'm sure he probably grew up, watched these movies, loved these movies, so that makes sense to me. And having a big name like that producing it could definitely help it. I think this will do extremely well.
I hope so. Glenn Powell. Glenn Powell would be an interesting star because he has that like almost too perfect look to him, where I could totally buy him as like a psychopath, but I could also buy him as like the survivor. I could buy him as like the triumphant, buff white dude who leads and saves the day or whatever.
Yeah, but what if he X's it and plays both roles?
Now that would be a lot of fun.
Plays the killer and the victim. He's like screaming, "Stop killing me!" And then you see him smiling, killing them.
Pulls off the leather face, and it's just him.
No, he pulls it off, and it's Sydney Sweeney.
Oh god.
Oh god. But JT Molnar, that's interesting because I have heard that name thrown around, and that does fit based on Stranger Only. That does. I can see that. I can definitely see that.
And I'm curious about the TV rights as well. What is that something they'll pursue? Like Texas Chainsaw Massacre has always been in the movies, but that feels like an IP you could easily make something more out of.
And we can move on to Street Fighter is now in production. I think this movie is going to be massive. I mean, this cast is insane, unbelievable.
I can't believe the cast. It was like every day there was something coming out about the cast. And it was like this. How is this real? Eric Andre is in this, and it's a stacked cast full of MMA fighters and people who have a lot of experience with like fight production. So I think it's going to look awesome. I think it's going to have that great mix of people like David Desmelchin, who are really talented actors, and also people like Cody Rhodes, who will just be fun to see them like kick ass.
I forgot to mention one thing with Dexter. I'm just glad that David Desmelchin's finally playing a serial killer, because I love David Desmelchin. This isn't even an insult. He looks like a serial killer. like he's got that look. Like he's actually up to something. Like people say Anthony Mackie knows you're up to something. David Desmelchin looks like he just did something, and so I'm really glad. Because does he sell it well? Is he good as a serial killer? Is he creepy?
Yeah, he's really good. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Street Fighter. My biggest takeaway from this movie's going to do extremely well, and we're in this video game phase. Like this is what Hollywood, audiences want right now.
Yeah, and Street Fighter is a notable IP because it's just like people know what Street Fighter is, they know the characters, but nobody knows what the story is. There's barely a story to Street Fighter. There is story there, but it makes no sense, and it's not what people play it for. So you can take the characters and just kind of have them fight each other and give me 90 minutes of these characters doing crazy, absurd fights, and that's all I really want. I'm excited for this. I'm so excited for this, honestly. Like this could be like my number one movie of next year if they nail this stupidity that this could be. Like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat 2 in the same year. What are you doing to me?
Yeah. Our next topic is certainly interesting.
Yeah, Greg, I believe his name is Sipes.
Yeah, Greg Sipes.
Greg Sipes. He was fired from the role of Beast Boy. He's been playing it for 20 years. The internet was in a rage. James Gunn, please explain this crime against humanity. You fired Greg. He had a Parkinson's diagnosis and you fired him the next day. How could you do this to poor Greg? And then it came out that Greg, he did have a Parkinson's diagnosis. That is correct. But he also was an avid COVID denier, a vaccine denier. He believed that chemtrails were like a conspiracy by Bill Gates. everything you can think of in terms of like the evils of Western medicine, conspiracy theory types. He was saying it, and I that hasn't been talked about because they're not going to say that, right? But I have a feeling Warner Brothers did not let him go because of the Parkinson's. They let him go because he was saying a lot of really dangerous misinformation, and he was in a kid show that they're about to revive, and they don't need him being in the forefront saying misinformation. They already gave him a different role in Teen Titans. He already recorded that role, so he went out there and acted like he was shocked about this information, but he knew this was going to happen. He already recorded his replacement lines, and it sounds like he was not necessarily let go purely because he got Parkinson's. Get rid of him. It sounds like there was more going on than that.
Yeah, not really much to say here. It's very unfortunate.
Yeah, I'm feeling bad for whoever they get to come in because they're probably going to deal with a lot of disingenuous questions and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then we have White Lotus. It's confirmed. It's headed to France. Um, I'm I I mean it's cool. I'd like to see them go somewhere unexpected. Somewhere very interesting. Like, what does a resort in like Canada look like? You never see shows or movies about hotels in Canada. Give me something interesting like that. Something unexpected. China, Japan. What does the Japanese hotel look like? I'm excited for the season, but I'm not sure that it being in France is like, oh my god, holy shit, they're going to France. Like, the cast is what will get me excited for this season.
Yeah, I haven't seen White Lotus yet. I will probably watch it prior to the season. It's just something that like kind of missed my radar. It didn't seem like it would be something I like that much, but I do expect to watch it. It's interesting that there's rumors it's going to be at this huge hotel right outside of the Cannes Film Festival that a bunch of like extreme Hollywood elites have probably stayed at. That might help them with their Emmy chances next year.
I can't wait to see who they cast.
Yeah, and who they cast, of course. That cast is going to be what's interesting. Yeah, and that cast is what sells these seasons. It's one of those shows where it's all about the cast and how they interact. So that'll be what sells it.
Um, I really wanted to say I forget his name. I really like him who played Lucius Malfoy. He was fantastic in this season, and I don't even know if he was nominated for the Emmy, but he was fantastic, and I'd like to see him get some more recognition. Maybe you put him in Knives Out. I don't know.
You got to get a Vincent Castle in there. It's a French season. Get some French actors in
Oh
there.
yeah, you're right. They definitely will. Um, and then
Let's
oh,
move on to some interesting
I did
stories.
not hear about this.
This has not been covered by any major outlets, but it's something I found today that I wanted to talk about on the show. I saw in an interview with a producer for K-pop Demon Hunters, a music producer. He worked with BTS. He was in an interview with the frontman of BTS today for like the Korean Times or something. And I read the interview. I'm sorry I didn't pull up the link. I should have done that, but I checked this with a couple other sources, and it sounds like it's true. He mentioned that he used ChatGPT to write the K-pop Demon Hunters song "Soda Pop," which is the song that the kind of antagonistic boy band sings.
That's like the catchiest one.
It becomes the big hit of a day. Everybody loves it, and it turns out that at least on some level, he used ChatGPT when he was in the process of producing the song. Now, Soda Pop is not the Oscar frontrunner for K-pop Demon Hunters. It's probably not going to be submitted. Stuff like Golden, and he is not tied to, so it seems like those songs are going to be in the clear. But in the way that the AI conversation is so prominent now and it has such an impact on the brutalists, I'm surprised it's not being talked about more, but it sounds like it just hasn't really hit the waves yet.
The people who hate AI are the people who love this movie. Maybe he just woke up in the middle of the night, just like in South Park, right next to his wife, and was like, ChatGPT, write the most epic thing ever. And then they wrote Soda Pop. But yeah, that is, I don't even know what to say about that. I mean, do these people think they're getting, and like if you're admitting in an interview, like you know what you're doing. So
yeah, they were at an AI conference. They're talking about like the future of AI in K-pop, and he mentioned like it's already here in K-pop. I used it to produce Soda Pop. It's been here. So
was Natasha Lyonne in the front row?
I didn't see her, but you never know. And when it comes to like conferences and other countries that are not in English, there's always a possibility of that just being like a translation error on the website's part, and then maybe this was like a miscommunication or something like that. It's interesting that the story has not really taken over any other like websites yet, but he definitely said it.
Let's move on to this next one.
Zootopia added a handful of new interesting cast members: Andy Samberg, Brenda Song, David Strathairn, and also Macaulay Culkin making a return to Hollywood Pictures.
I did not see this news, but Macaulay Culkin, that is very interesting, because what's the last studio film he was in?
I couldn't even begin to tell you.
Jeez, that is very interesting. I'm definitely looking forward to that. I can't wait for Zootopia 2. It'll obviously be a huge hit. I think it will definitely make $1 billion. That
I think
is
it's funny that you can get cast members revealed for a movie that is like about to come out. Like they're just casting them now, or like they just
no,
like didn't say it until now.
it's happened for a while. Like, remember when it was announced Carrie Coon would be in Infinity War like a week before it came out? Like, they're not casting it now. They were in it. I was looking at his IMDb and I forgot that he actually has a cameo in the Netflix show Running Point. He just shows up in the crowd at like a wrestling match or something. He's
That's
just cheering.
crazy.
They just cut to Macaulay Culkin. It's hilarious. But yeah, the last studio film he was in. I mean, Jesus Christ, not what the hell? In 2004, he was in something called Jerusalemsky Syndrome.
Jeez.
Jeez, I don't even want to know what that is. But yeah, I don't. The last studio film he was in was probably Richie Rich, maybe.
Jeez, that is not recent.
No, Party. He was in Party Monster 2003.
I'm
Gee,
I'm curious how big of a role it is because these are like names, where it's like Andy Samberg. Is that going to be a big role, or is it going to be like he has a cameo in a scene?
you forgot to. Okay, I guess we'll save the biggest story. I don't see it. You forgot the biggest story, but we'll finish with the quick news first.
Yeah, I want to mention that Super Mario Brothers is officially getting a sequel. It was revealed at Nintendo Direct a few days ago that the Mario movie sequel is called Super Mario Galaxy Movie. So it's a sequel to Mario Brothers. Peach in the movie reference, so there's a lot of galaxies out there, kind of hinting that they might be doing a Mario Galaxy as the sequel. But now they are. I'm really excited to see how they go with the visuals of it. And the first movie is like fun. I liked watching it, but it was not like great or anything. I'll watch the second one. It'll probably be similar. It'll probably be a lot of like enjoyable kind of visuals and gags and stuff that I recognize from the movies and the games. But I don't expect it to be like the next amazing video game movie. But prove me wrong, Mario. You can do it.
And then, real quickly, I just want to touch on box office. Demon Slayer destroyed the box office.
Wrecked it.
And then the Long Walk, it was slower than walking. Nobody saw the Long Walk.
The slow crawl.
Yeah, sorry, Mark Hamill. Oh, I guess, I guess, we did the reviews already. But can I do a quick review of the Long Walk, just real quick?
Go ahead. Tell me what you thought of The Long Walk. Stephen King's The Long Walk, based off of his first ever written book. He wrote it when he was a freshman in college. He published it as Richard Bachman. But yeah, let me know what you thought of The Long Walk.
It feels like it was written when he was a freshman in college. Okay, it's not bad. It's just it doesn't do anything interesting. The directing is really just. It feels like it's the guy who did the Hunger Games. Like. It's okay, and I appreciate trying to flesh out the characters and stuff, but it just feels very. Also, I don't like the gore when they show someone's head blown off. It just feels very shocking for no reason, and it has no impact. The actors were good, the performances were good, but there's one thing where Cooper Hoffman's character is talking about his dad, and it just felt like, listen, I love Philip Seymour Hoffman, and it's cool that he wants to be a man, wants to be open about his feelings, but it just felt kind of forced that they're trying to do this. He was good in the movie, and they got Josh Hamilton to play the dad, and he's good. I always like seeing Josh Hamilton. I gotta say, Judy Greer is like overacting in this movie. The performance was great, but like, why are they directing her? It was really weird. Like she was, I don't know what was going on, but yeah, it's fine. It's all right. I'm sorry. I love Star Wars. I love Mark Hamill as the Joker. I really liked him in Life of Chuck. He gave a bad performance.
Oh no.
It is legitimately bad. The whole movie, everything you see in the trailer was like, everyone don't do this. And then he's like barking. That's the whole movie, man. That's the whole fucking movie. He does have some great lines. There's this hilarious part towards the end where Cooper Hoffman is like, suck on my balls, you suck, you piece of shit. And then Mark Hamill just says, yes, that's the attitude I want to see. I respect that.
This seems like a pretty bizarre movie.
It's not good, man, but you gotta see it. You gotta see it. But yeah,
there's a lot of like social commentary in the premise. Like, did they get into that at all?
I mean, yeah, but in a very surface level way. Like, you mean like with class and stuff?
Yeah, the class divide, how far you're willing to go, and all that kind of stuff.
No, I gotta mention. Yeah, no, I gotta mention. They're talking about like work ethic. Like, to be in the movie, he's like, this is all for work ethic, to build your work ethic.
No.
The economy's in a very bad place. It's in a very bad place right now, but this will help it. Because the last time we did the long walk, then the economy got great afterwards. And I'm like, the economy got great after you murdered children? And also, like, there's one guy in it who, like, you have to be 18, but he's, like, looks like he's not even 15. Like,
Jojo Rabbit himself?
Yeah, but yeah, and it's obviously that's the commentary, and I guess it's okay to me. There was an interesting moment involving a Native American character that felt like they were just kind of writing it in there to be relevant. I'm like, it's an interesting thing to do, but you didn't even really acknowledge this character was Native until now, so it's a bit weird. But yeah, not a big fan. The reviews are really good. It sounds like people saw it, are really enjoying it. It should have had a better director. Honestly, I think Frank Darabont would have been a great fit for this. He really would have fleshed out the characters and made you really. That's the worst part of the movie is I didn't really care about anyone. Like, the performances are good, but I didn't really care. Like if Cooper Hoffman just got shot in the head and Mark Hamill started barking like a dog, like I wouldn't have really cared all that much. I did appreciate there are some choices here I really appreciate. A few things, not gonna hint at anything or spoil anything, but yeah, there are some choices I did appreciate that at least made it different from what you expected. But yeah, not a really a big fan of this one. But we have to mention the big story is that interestingly, right after Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav said company's going to split in April, comes out that Paramount is looking at bidding on buying Warner Brothers. This is something that has been speculated ever since David Zaslav took over, and it seems like a lot of people have speculated that he took over so he could make this happen, so he could get someone to buy it. Looking very grim, though, for the industry. This would be really terrible, especially Paramount is going to very conservative. They're very looking up to Trump. Diversity, if you think diversity inclusion is bad now, like, it's going to be non-existent if they take over. And think about how much they'll own with Warner Brothers. Like, it's Disney all over. But Warner Brothers, I don't know if they own more, but they own a lot. I mean, they own more than you would even think.
I meant to bring this up earlier when you're talking about like the political turn of things, and yeah, Paramount certainly is not afraid to lean into the politics. Like, they're the only studio that's out there saying, we don't support this petition. They're out there directly talking about Trump engaging with politics and engaging with politics like on both sides, if you want to say it like that. They're really South Park is gaining so much attention politically right now too, and it's a bummer to see such a great studio seem to be falling apart. Warner Brothers had a great year this year, but that's sort of just like on paper, right? They took all of their potentially failed investments like The Bride and stuff like that and just pushed it off to next year to make this year look really, really good. Well, they've got to eventually like pay that bill next year of all these delayed movies, like they pushed Mickey 17 enough. They had to eventually release it, right, and lose a bunch of money. But yeah, I'm not a fan of studios buying other studios like this in general.
This is what the Paramount decree was made so studios couldn't own movie theaters, and they undid the Paramount decree a few years ago. That's exactly what it's just crazy. We undid the Paramount decree, and now this is happening with Paramount. Like what? And I think it's close. We're close to 100 years since that happened. So it's like, what world are we living in where this is allowed to happen? And so many people are going to lose their jobs, man. I mean,
Yeah, we'll see if it happens. I think there's a possibility it gets broken up, especially if they can't get it done before 2028, and if there's a switcheroo in terms of like party and power, that might play a role. But yeah, they definitely tried to butter up the president in the last few months because they know this is going to be a hard merger to get approved, right? This is going to be a big merger, and without the president on their side, it's not going to happen, right? So all of this stuff like firing Colbert and those and standing up against this Palestinian petition, those are not just random positions, right? Those are them trying to put themselves in the good graces of the person who's going to be approving this potential merger for them,
yeah,
and it's also calculated.
yeah, you're right though. That like, if they don't get this going before Trump is out of office, like maybe it doesn't happen. Do you have any thoughts on Ice Cube basically revealed that his War of the Worlds movie, they filmed it during 2020, and that's why it is the way it is. It feels like a time capsule thing. Like, imagine if that Host movie came out in 2026. Like, maybe this film, I'm not saying it would have had good reception, but at least maybe people when like, oh, it's a little relevant. It feels a little real if it came out then. But releasing it in 2025, it's just like,
Especially without the context. Like if you don't tell me that was a COVID movie, I watch it and you could kind of tell it is, but like you watch it and you're like, this is the laziest movie ever produced in like the history of man. But yeah, it makes sense that he shot that thing in COVID. It makes sense he shot it over like he said, oh, it was like a 14-day shoot, no director, no anything. It was just like him in a room with a camera, like very bizarre experience. But that context does make it a good movie, but it makes me understand why it is the way that it is,
I just love that quote. He said, "We shot it in 15 days, and it was during the pandemic, so the director wasn't in there. None of the actors was in there." And I love this last part. This was the only way.
It probably was in the sense that like they filmed it in the height of this, right? Like this is the way they had to do it. Surely it could have been better than this, though. Come on, like some good movies were made in 2020. I promise you.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on any of these trailers that came out? We had Knives Out 3. We had The Rip. We had the Christie.
I watched Knives Out 3 trailer. That's the only of those ones that I've seen. I think it looks pretty good. My reception to the trailer is a little bit along the lines of how people seem to be receiving the movie, where I'm like, yeah, it looks like Knives Out. It doesn't necessarily look like it's super new. It looks kind of like they're just doing another Knives Out, right? And I'm curious how they differentiate themselves. It looks stylistically interesting. It has a lot of like that gothic set design and stuff. I hope it can. Be better than the trailer made me think. The trailer is good, but I didn't walk out of the trailer being like, "Oh man, we're so back! This is like the greatest trailer I've ever seen." I watched the trailer and I said, "Looks like a pretty good Knives Out movie."
And I thought the Christie trailer was okay. I don't think it looks remarkable. It looks like another biopic. I'm glad that Chad Coleman from The Walking Dead and The Wire is getting a big movie role, but the movie just does not look particularly remarkable.
I think if it wasn't for the Smashing Machine, it might hit a lot harder. But we're getting two, like, boxing biopics in the same year that are both like a actor or actress breaking their normal type and going against the grain. And one of them is just going to be so much better than the other, or at least so much more prominent than the other.
She'll probably still get in though, right?
I don't know if that's likely. I mean, you can't get everybody in the Oscar, right? And Sydney Sweeney has not had a great PR year, I would say. So I don't know if she'll make it.
Does it give you any more excitement for Resident Evil that Dariusz Wolski is shooting it? He's a cinematographer. He shot Pirates, Prometheus, The Martian, The Crow, the original, not the amazing one from last year.
I love Prometheus and I love The Crow. He's shot a lot of gorgeous movies, and so yeah, talented people on a movie is never a bad thing.
Warner Brothers is going to be launching award campaigns for Sinners, Weapons, and One Blood After Another. Anything surprising about that?
I guess weapons. I think it's a fantasy to have weaponize your award campaign, but I guess it's probably their third biggest movie. If you're gonna throw something out there like that, you could see it getting like a screenplay or something. Like maybe. But yeah, Sinners and One Battle After Another. I had some fear for a second they weren't gonna push One Battle After Another. They were gonna go all in on Sinners and essentially abandon PTA to die in this desert over there, but not happening.
Now, I'm just going to, before we end, we got to catch up on a few of these ones we missed. This, I got to mention, NBC followed Paramount in making everyone go back to work. If you're disabled, if you're our best employee, but you have a condition, you can't physically go into work, you're fired. What do you think about this?
It's not a good look. I understand we've got to probably find a more of a balance than we had prior to this. Like the fact that we were at some point having nobody in the office ever, like that's obviously not the way we should be doing things forever, right? But there also should be, if you don't need to be in the office, like don't come into the office. Don't waste your gas. Don't put more pollution into the planet driving for an hour every single day for no reason, endangering yourself on the road for no reason. We've already adjusted for the last 5 years to have the non-essential people find a way to work from home and then live their lives around that. And for a lot of us, that seems like such a privilege. Like, oh, you want to work from home? Like, what an asshole. But like, this industry has a lot of that. Like I said, they've spent 5 years figuring out a way to make this work, and there had to be a better balance. But yeah, I think it's clear that the quality control out of Hollywood has dropped since 2020. And I don't know if that's because everybody is so scattered. I think that might be part of it, though. I think when you have, especially like a big franchise, something like the MCU, and you're trying to make changes on the fly, you want to run out to your crew and say, let's change this right now. And you can't do that because your crew is at home, right? And you got to call them up and you got to get everybody on the load. And especially on like the editing side, you're all trying to edit off of a server from one other place. And if you're at home, you're trying to edit off of the server at the office, that might really, really slow you down. So there's a realistic reality here where like people can't be working from home all the time when it comes to these level of productions.
But obviously there are some jobs where you can't do it from home. But there are some jobs where there's no reason you can't do that from the house, right? Like, I did want to mention though the fact that NBC announced this just a few days later, a week later, just proves and reminds you that that's how Hollywood works, right? One studio does one thing, another studio follows them. And I wouldn't be surprised if another studio announces they're doing the same thing. It's very unfortunate. But I do want to move to this, I think, is a very important thing to talk about. Last weekend, The Conjuring 4, the final chapter or whatever, did incredible. It almost made $200 million worldwide. It 51% was female, 43% Hispanic. I think it's interesting that a lot of women are seeing this. This is a franchise that really does appeal to women more than maybe other horror, like, I don't know, like Terrifier or something.
Especially because I feel like the fact that it's like a romantic lead almost, like their love is such a prominent part of the franchise. I'm really shocked to see it do so well. Like it was projecting to do okay. It did incredibly.
In the 40s, it made over $80 million domestically, almost 200. It opened higher than the new Mission Impossible. Let that sink in, Tom Cruise. I mean, Jesus Christ! Like, and this is a franchise that maybe the people didn't think was dead, but like, it's cruising. But yeah, no, this is not dead. And then we got more news on the show. Sets a showrunner and writer. So, and then the news, interestingly, that Monday or whatever, that David F. Sandberg is going to direct an Amityville horror reimagining for Amazon. This is an insane situation. Someone who was literally involved in the Conjuring franchise is now doing that same story, but you can't use the Warrens. So this is going to be very interesting.
Yeah, it's not the first time they've done a Warren story without the Warrens. It's not even the first time they've done Amityville Horror, right? Amityville Horror is like one of the longest running franchises like ever. If you look at like Amityville, 2033, and there's Amityville Shark, and there's Amityville Alligator, and like it's one of those like true schlock franchises.
I had no idea Ryan Reynolds was in one.
He was in probably like up to top like 2 or 3 level in terms of like prominent ones, but I'm sure this is going to be more of a serious movie than most of the Amityville movies are. And yeah, coming off of the heat of The Conjuring, it's a very good move. But yeah, The Conjuring doing so well is a big story here, right? And we talked about how there's this kind of like return to tradition in Hollywood right now. There's this return to conservatism in Hollywood right now. And I think the success of this movie is a result of that. It's a very religious oriented movie. It's a very like, there's a white lady and a white guy are your main leads, and it's about how much their belief in Catholicism is enough to like stop all forms of evil from coming, and I think there certainly is an appeal to the conservative demographic in there, but that's not to say that it's a conservative movies necessarily, because it's horror. It still appeals to a lot of people, but yeah, it's an overall great win for The Conjuring, though. Undisputably a great win.
Speaking of horror, I gotta mention this bizarre story that John Travolta, Crystal Reed, and Chet Hanks, the other Hanks son, are boarding an AI horror thriller. Ed, what is going on? John Travolta's joining horror.
This is going to be a crazy lineup. Like John Travolta in a horror movie, that's either going to be incredible or it's going to be just like the most boring thing you've ever seen in your life.
The biggest thing here, though, is that this is his first like real movie in a long time. Like he's been in movies the last 10 years, but not, that's not.
It's a real movie, but is it though? Like this is going to be a movie you find in your Dollar Tree. It's not going to get like is this going to be a theatrically released movie? Like this doesn't feel like a real movie to me. Chet Hanks is in this thing. Like Chet Hanks is not in. This is like
Chet Hanks
is not in movies.
He's in real stuff though. Like he was in Your Honor. He was just in that Mindy Kaling sports show. So we'll see. I'm excited for it. That's just a wild concept. And then I did not watch the new trailer for the Smashing Machine, and I'm not going to. It comes out so soon. I'm not watching that. I'm not.
No, I don't do that.
Sorry. And then one battle after another. First reactions came out the same day tickets went on sale. Very interesting coincidence. Definitely not a coincidence. They definitely did that on purpose, because I was like, why aren't tickets on sale yet? That's why they're not on sale. And the reactions are incredible. People are calling, saying this is his best film in a long time. Some people are saying it's his best film. They're praising Leo's performance. I mean, this is I knew it would be good. And I didn't know what to expect. He's doing like a big studio film. But I'm pumped for this movie, man.
I'm so excited. It's only a couple weeks away. And like I said, it feels like his return to big studio stuff. And people talk about PTA, talk about There Will Be Blood, and then he has a lot of stuff after that. But There Will Be Blood feels like it was his big mainstream breakout. People were watching that. It was getting all kinds of Oscar attention, and it had a huge budget, that kind of stuff. And this feels like him going back to that.
Could this be the Best Picture winner?
I think it's a very strong possibility, especially when you think about the fact that it deals with white supremacy and political violence very directly.
Before I do this in memoriam for two people who passed away, I want a quick mention that with the Emmys, apparently they left out Hulk Hogan in memoriam.
Ouch.
That's pretty funny. That's honestly. Do you think that was intentional?
Probably, right. I don't know how I feel about that. Hulk Hogan is one of the most prominent TV entertainers of all time. I feel like he probably should have been in there.
But yeah, Stuart Craig, Oscar-winning production designer on Harry Potter and Fantastic Beasts, passed away. He was 83 years old. He also worked on Dangerous Liaisons, The English Patient, and Gandhi. Some
really gorgeous production design on all those things. Period pieces, fantasy films, and the look of Harry Potter is so important to that franchise, and it's all him. So great work.
And then unfortunately, Graham Greene, known character actor, very great Native American actor, passed away, and he was not that old. He was, I believe, in his 70s. A very big loss, especially at a time that we don't need more Native American people dying, now more than ever, with all the racism going on. It's very unfortunate, great loss, and I'll definitely be trying to watch some of it. I know he was in The Green Mile, which I have not seen, but yeah, very, very unfortunate, and he will be greatly missed. Do you have any favorite performances, favorite movies of his?
Well, he does have an extensive filmography. I'm not like super familiar with. When you scroll through his list, you think like, oh, I remember him from like the couple of movies he was in, and then you look at the list and you're like, oh, you're like, oh, Green Mile, Wind River, and then you look at it and you're like, he was in all kinds of stuff for a really, really long time. And I want to shout out the fact that I just last weekend went to a Twilight drive-in marathon that was showing all the Twilight films, and his name and the credits got a bit of a a bit of a clap, from the crowd because he had just passed away.
My introduction to him was Wind River. He gave a great, very emotional performance in that movie. He was in that movie Antler that wasn't that great. He was recently in The Last of Us, so like he never stopped working, and I think this just proves that what Hollywood does is they find like 3 Native American guys, like you're the Native American guy forever, no work at all for any other Native American actors, and it's really messed up. That's how Hollywood works. They are not nice to people of color and minorities. You think, but that's a nice thing, hiring him all that. Well, no, because they're only hiring him. That's what they do. That's what they do. And I mean, it's cool that I can't remember his name, but the guy who's in Dark Winds, he has a show on AMC. It's in like the 4th season, and that's really cool. But there's a lot of other Native actors that should be getting work that aren't. And I love James Cameron, but he could easily be giving a lot of Native American actors work, even in small roles in these Avatar films, and he's choosing not to. And I think that's just a very interesting thing to take note of. But yeah, very unfortunate. We're getting close to the end here. I'll mention Dwayne Johnson confirmed he dropped weight to star as Chicken Man and adaptation of Lizard People.
Now that's the news. Dwayne Johnson is the Chicken Man.
Jesus,
glad we covered that one.
Dude, that image of Jesus Christ, that movie's gonna be incredible. That I'm gonna see that so many times, man. You think I saw Uncut Gems 12 times? I'm gonna see this 50 times. Like, are you kidding me?
I want to get into this more in detail when we see more, but we did get a good, a potential first look at Doctor Doom and the Avengers.
Oh yeah.
I figured we'd save that maybe for when we get like a better look at that look. Like we saw some behind the scenes marketing material from this Disney Expo thing happening. We saw some light show that gives us a look at Doctor Doom, and there's not much to really say about this. Like I'm sure comic book fans could get into a lot of details, but I looked at that and I was like, yeah, it looks like Doctor Doom, and it looks
good.
Really, really cool. They didn't do any kind of crazy MCUification of the costume where it looks like the stupid military gear or something. It looks like Doctor Doom. I'm in for it.
It would be cool if with Doctor Doom they, the MCU has been criticized for being military propaganda, and he's from a country that has been invaded or whatever, or abused by the military. What if they actually finally like do some criticism of that? I don't know if that'll happen, but I think that would be a cool direction, especially since who played Iron Man, who's the libertarian military guy. Like, yeah, but also you mentioned to me that Tobey Maguire has been spotted recently in London, and that is where Doomsday is filming. So
it's possible.
Coincidence? It'd be interesting to me though if he's in Doomsday and instead of, because you think he'd be in Secret Wars. It would be interesting to me Doomsday because that's where the original X-Men are, and to finally see him cross over with them, that would be fun.
I think it's unlikely we see Tobey Maguire again, but I think that's my opinion.
Wait, you don't think we're gonna see him in either of these?
I don't. I think we'll see Andrew Garfield probably again, but I don't know. We may see him in Spider-Man at some point, but I don't see a reason for Sony to be putting Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield in these Marvel movies. That's going to be a lot of money and a lot of like, I don't know. I err on the side of caution when it comes, particularly Tobey Maguire coming back. He doesn't work that much. He doesn't seem like he gets along that well with like people in Hollywood. So
it does seem like he really enjoyed coming back though, but that's what would make me think maybe Spider-Man is more likely because it's, you're just with the 2 other guys. But it's also possible that if he is in Doomsday, he only shoots his scenes with them, maybe. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm really curious how it comes together.
Toby. What if Toby's the person who got pissed off at a joke? What if
that could be true? Made some joke about poker. He's like, I take that shit seriously.
Do you come with caution when it comes out that Michael Caine is coming out of retirement at 92 years old for Vin Diesel's Last Witch Hunter 2?
See, now we got to see it.
Jesus,
the whole crowd will go wild for that.
That is wild. But I think, yeah, I think this is good.
We've covered it pretty in depth. We've had 2 hours of news for you guys. We covered, believe it or not, there's stuff we didn't cover, but we covered a lot of stuff. this week. We had to basically cover like 2 weeks of news, but from here on out, we will be regularly doing weekly shows covering stuff as it happens. And hopefully, when stuff really breaks, like we'll be able to go live right away, right? Like when Superman 2 got announced, we probably should have jumped on the mics and talked about that, right? But, when we get that Avengers Doomsday reveal or the trailer or something, we'll be here to talk about it right away. But until then, do you have any other final thoughts, Ari? Anywhere they can find you online? You want to plug your letterbox? Do you want to plug anywhere they should be checking you out?
Nope. You'll see me next week.
Yep, you'll see us all next week. Michael, like I said, just did an extensive breakdown of the Emmys last night. So if you want to see him break down the Emmys, he did an awards roundtable last night covering the Emmys.
Wait, gotta mention next week we will be doing a probably short recap, depending on what happens, of the Gen V premiere. Gen V returns tomorrow.
That's unbelievable. And as usual, we're covering Peacemaker week to week. So check out our coverage of Peacemaker as we enter the last half of this very hyped up last half of the season. All right, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you guys for watching. Let us know in the comments what you thought of all of these stories, what you thought we should cover that we didn't cover. Let us know what you thought of these Emmys too. There's a lot going on in the world. Hope you guys stay safe out there. Love your family, love your parents, love your kids. It's a tough time to be alive sometimes. So spread some positivity and tell everybody you love them. We'll see you guys next week.